Hello, everyone. We're ready to call the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item is the approval of the minutes from the November 17th, 2014 regular meeting.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
I do have an amendment there, Ann. It's on page 55, page 670, and there were two motions on the same item. One was a motion for the merits to vote up or down. The other was a continuance, and so we need to change Wilkins, Susan, and Ray as no votes on the motion to continue. This is on 670, everybody, because the continuance failed on the Gilbane. All right. With that amendment, could I get a motion for that amendment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right, so welcome everybody. Happy New Year. We do have our new camera equipment, and Mrs. Merlino, thank you for your feedback on that. We're happy that people can hear at home better. I'm sure Susan's gotten some feedback as well on that. So glad to hear that that's working well. We have a new item on our agenda, which is announcements and presentations, updates for the town regarding state projects. So I believe our first one is the tour of the salt shed that we had. Jeff will handle both of these. So, no, Jeff wasn't at the tour of the salt shed.
Oh, you want me to cover
Pam, why
this?
don't you do the tour of the
Yes.
salt shed, and then Jeff will do the second item. All right, thank you.
Okay, on Tuesday, the 30th of December, the town council posted a meeting to meet at the salt shed to meet with Director Lewis, RIDOT director, and with his deputy director, Philip Kidd, and with Mr. Joe Baker. We met at the salt shed, and we discussed what we are going to do with the salt shed. And the director was quite frank with us when he said, I understand your problem. I understand that it's a monster. I understand the size and the shape and the scope and the visibility of this in your town. And he offered a few suggestions to us long-term. There's a possibility of swapping out land. I have to tell you that we'd have to pay for that, but it's a long-term solution. And in the short term, we will be asking for and watching very closely the development of a landscape that will definitely provide shelter to the town in the way of fast-growing tall pines and trees that will disguise that structure. We're very concerned about a group of 3 trees that is on the point facing the rotary that is due to come down. And we've asked them to allow those to remain standing because in the summer they provide a lot of foliage that guards against seeing so much of the structure. The other thing that I've gotten calls on, and so have a lot of the council, is the lights being lit up at night. And you see that great big marshmallow effect of that white canvas top on it. And they have agreed that they will not have the lights on in that structure unless it's working, unless it's during a storm. So we're very pleased with that, and I've heard already from the DPW people today that indeed they are off at night. So we are working on it. We will continue. We have something on the agenda tonight whereby the town council will instruct me to work with the director to come up with some solutions. I will warn you that it's not going to be fast or easy. The best we can do in the short term is probably going to be to get the foliage that will cover that structure and make it less visible to the town as you drive by it. They admit it's worse on the highway than it even is on the rotary. The fact that it is a scenic highway, that highway is supposed to be developed, Route 1 into a scenic highway, this was all pointed out, and they understand what we're fighting. He said that in Smithfield and in Johnston, they've made some changes to their property because they needed, those communities needed the structures to be moved. But I will warn you that it's a big expense to the town if we do that. And Short of that, I have nothing more to say right now.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Pam.
Pam. All right, Jeff is going to come forward and talk about more activity at that area.
Deepwater wind. There have been a couple of things that have been happening in the Deepwater Wind project over the last month or two that bear noting. First of all, they received their final state permits back in December, and what was involved with that also, Matt, was the procurement of a 25-year lease with the state for the submerged lands. And for that, they're paying the state $150,000 a year. The other bigger piece of the puzzle now is that National Grid is negotiating with Deepwater Wind to buy the project now rather than later. Originally, Deepwater Wind was going to build the entire project out and then sell it to National Grid when it became operational. Pam and I met with National Grid, about a month or so ago, Pam? And National Grid indicated to us that they'd rather buy the project and they'll build it out, except for the turbines. Deepwater Wind will still build the offshore component, but Grid will build the rest of it. They believe that they're better positioned, both technically and financially, to build out the rest of it. So the project will come ashore at Scarborough Beach, as we've been told. It will proceed underground along Burnside Avenue, up Point Judith Road, to the salt shed site, where they will build a switch yard, which will be a much smaller facility than what the salt barn is. And then from there, it'll proceed into Wakefield and connect to the substation that's right at Dale Carlia Corners. Deepwater Wind is in the process of procuring all the materials now. They're starting to build the turbines off-site. They anticipate a construction start in early to mid-2015, and it'll probably take about 2 years to complete. The reason that it'll take 2 years to complete is that they have to time the water work around migratory whales, other species of fish and things that move through the area. They can only work during certain windows. And in terms of the underwater cable laying, there are only a couple of ships literally worldwide that can do a project of that magnitude. So it becomes a scheduling exercise for them. But that's where it is. That's what we know as of today. Yep.
Thank you, Jeff. Just on Deepwater Wind, I want to reiterate my opposition to the project, and I know the town knows that I was very passionately opposed to it. And we continue to fight against the project, but right now, that is the update on what's going on. So, but I do want everyone in town to know that I have been still actively in opposition to this project. All right, we now have our open forum section of the meeting. So if anyone wants to come forward from the public to speak on matters, Richard.
My name is Richard Vangermersh. I'll use the Osceola address tonight. I'm speaking as an emeritus professor of accounting and as a certified public accountant. And I'd like to give a brief tutorial on this article. School Board awards first stadium contract to the highest bidder. The chairwoman of the school committee said the $60,000 over the low bid of $113,000. So it's really a percent, a really healthy percent, will come from funds squirreled away by the schools. No self-respecting accountant can be silent on this. The funds for the athletic complex come from three sources: the taxpayers, who pay the bond principal and the interest, the donors, and three, school funds. Once the project was voted on last November and passed, all three of the sources become one in the pot of money to be paid to do the project. There is no such thing as a pot of money in the school department. Every dollar in this pot is fungible, i.e., all the same. There is no separate school committee fund. These $60,000 are not the school committees. Every one of those dollars is the people's dollars. And I, for one of those people, am really unsatisfied by what I read. Believe me, this is so wrong. It violates every principle of government accounting.
Thank you, Richard. Stan.
Thank goodness we have some expert opinion to rely on here. Hope we follow through. Tonight I want to talk about failure. And, I think we learn so much more when we fail. Because when we fail, we go about and try to fix the failure, and therefore we look for all kinds of alternative solutions. So the whole project turns out much better when you experience some failures along the road. And specifically, I'd like to talk about rental registration. Years ago, it was looked upon as a way to stop drunken, disorderly people and people who disturb the peace. So you had a group of people here that were causing trouble, and of course, the town took a stance of, well, we're going to target landlords and really get onto the landlords for this issue. If it was successful, we wouldn't still be dealing with this problem. Here we are, 8, 10 years later, we still have the problem. That's the proof that our initial take on this was wrong. It was an error, it was a failure. Now it's up to you people to acknowledge that and make the necessary changes. Rental registration is duplicating what we already know with vision appraisal. There's no need for rental registration to deal with drunk and disorderly. And I can't understand why you would not see that. It failed, we must make a change and move on. And I hope that you will look at that, because it's excessive money being spent that doesn't have to be spent in that area to fix the problem. It's failed. Let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Yes, Mrs. Smith.
I want to wish you a Happy New Year. My name is Rosemary Smith. I'm a coordinator for the Winter Speaker Series that'll be taking place at the Maury Luchins Library on the last Sunday of January, February, and March. And this is our 4th season, and it's a collaboration of the Narrow River Preservation Association, the Friends of Canachet Farm, the South County Museum, the library, and Trio Restaurant. And on January 25th, Numi Mitchell will be speaking on coyotes in the backyard. On February 22nd, Colin Porter will be speaking about King Philip's War at Home, another look at the Gyra Bull Garrison House. And on March 29th, Save the Bays, Wenley Ferguson will be talking about salt marsh restoration and Narrow River. So that's on Sundays, 1 to 3 at the Maury Luchins Library, and then after the presentation, we go over to Trio's Restaurant and have a little something to eat. So thank you for letting me make the presentation.
Thank you, Rosemary.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
Happy New Year. I'm Ray Cales.
Hi, Ray. Happy New Year.
I just wanted to officially let you know that we've started an organization of landlords in town. It's called Narragansett 2100. And we are organizing, working toward trying to help landlords become part of the solution to the problems we have in town. At 6 o'clock tonight, we met with one of the subcommittees of the ad hoc committee, and it was a very productive meeting. We plan to meet with them again and try to work out solutions that work for everybody. So I'm optimistic. I don't suggest that we're going to agree on every single item, but we're working toward that, and we're trying to make it a community effort to really bring the community together instead of going on the way we've done in the past and following up on what Stanley said. We really need to do something a different way to solve these problems, and I'm convinced they can be solved if we all work together. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
And if there's no one else for the public comment portion of the meeting, we're going to move to our consent agenda. We have a public hearing scheduled for 8 o'clock, so we'll move to our consent agenda right now. Does any member of the council have a consent agenda item they would like to remove?
Not me.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. All right, under old business, we have item number 14, which I think will take a little more time than 15 minutes. I anticipate, John, is that fair to say? Okay, so what I'll do is take a motion just to move we'll just move on to item number 15.
I'll move that motion.
Motion to review and approve the proposed 2015 Narragansett facilities and beach fee schedule for the 2015 season.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. So we had a work session this evening where Steve Wright and the Recreation Advisory Board gave us their recommendations to keep the beach fees the same as they've been, saying that we are in the range of a little upward of $2 million came in from our beach revenues, and suggesting that basically they thought after we had an above average to a good season weather-wise to it's been vetted by the Recreation Board and Steve to keep those fees the same. I don't know if Steve wants to add to that from the work session at all. All right, is there any discussion or anyone from the audience who wants to weigh in on this topic? All right, Karen.
Karen Shevchelowitz. I was sorry I was unable to attend the previous session. My one concern is, as a resident of Wanda Street, I find that sometimes the parking lot closes around 1 or 2 because they start letting in out-of-town people because they serve a certain they save a certain number of spots. And then if you're a resident and you want to enter the parking lot after that, it may be closed. And I have a skin condition where I can't be out in the sun a lot and in the direct sun. So oftentimes I'd rather go down to the beach later in the day, but it's a real problem as far as getting into the parking lot. And I have a handicap parking placket too. And I was wondering if there was anything that could be done to increase the amount of handicap spots, and also not to close the beach to residents so much earlier in the day, because it's really unfair to the residents who can't get down there early and stay earlier, and they should be the first priority, and that parking lot gets really filled and there's no alternative. So I would just like to express my concern over that.
So
Thank
Karen,
you.
we're going to do this work session was on the fees for the beach, and we're going to do one on policies, which will be more long-term focused, and the Rec Advisory Board's going to be having several meetings looking at the policy, and then we're going to have another work session, which will be on the policies related to the beach, not so much the fees. So that would be part of that discussion. So we'll make
When
sure
would
to let
that
you
be?
know. I think that would be around March timeframe, the work session. Is that fair to say, Steve? Probably, because the Rec Advisory Board will meet. They'll have January, February meetings. They're going to start to hash those out. Those are the third, what?
February.
The third, when a Rec Advisory Board meetings, if she went to? The third Monday? Okay, third Monday, that's when the Rec Advisory Board, we're looking at policies.
The
So the
first Monday,
No, it's
excuse me.
the first Monday.
First Monday.
first Monday, sorry.
Thanks, Wayne.
Okay.
I give up.
I'm relying on a liaison here, come on, give me.
You know,
You're
it's
getting
hard to
removed
keep
from that
up.
board, right?
I know you're
But Karen, so this one was, for you to miss, was probably less important than the policy one where we'd be talking more about the parking.
And I know there wasn't also there a meeting tonight about URI and the student, it's unfortunate when you have 2 conflicting meetings right before a town council. I know you have a lot of meetings, but somehow seems to go by very quickly, and I don't know how much public input gets put into it. You
Pam?
know,
That was a subcommittee meeting of the ad hoc committee, not a full meeting. Their full meeting is January 12th at 6:30 here, but that was a subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, so I missed that too, Karen, because that was my 3 unrelated subcommittee that I wasn't able to go to because I was at the workshop. But I think that they're open to the public. You know, we've had quite a few meetings, so certainly the meeting on the beach and the policies, that will be open as well.
thank you, thank you. Happy New Year.
You
Happy
too.
New Year.
Stan?
I really want to commend Steve and the staff. You know, it's, you go down there and the beach is beautiful and it just appears to be so well-run. There's all kinds of kudos I want to give to the people who are involved there. There's no doubt about it. And of course, he wants to be a nice guy and minimize the impact on the people going in there. However, you know, what I heard about was the minimum wage is going up. When the minimum wage goes up, our costs are going to go up. If our cost goes up, we cannot just stabilize here. We must follow. So you must raise that $1. That $8 should be $9. You got to raise it to make up for the increase in labor costs. You just can't let it go. $1 is certainly not going to prevent somebody who's going down to the beach to get there, especially with this quality of beach. I read to people who go to Scarborough, and they just don't like it there. We have a pristine operation over here. It's very desirable. For $1, 10 years is $10. That's significant for us. Now, I understand, you know, we had a good time. We didn't have to pump any sand. We didn't have to, you know, we didn't have buildings blowing over. So we didn't have a problem. So now we have a little nest egg. Well, I'm saying we need a $4 million nest egg. We need a $4 million nest egg because we don't know what's coming. So this is one time people just have to pay for the use of that beach. So we have the nest egg to keep it as long as possible. And therefore, I must raise it by $1. And the same thing for the cabanas. I hear about a list of 251 people. Up the cabanas, another $500. It's not a big issue. You know, $3,000. People pay that for a week. And you know, it's not a big deal when you're on vacation. But again, the impact is when something does happen, all of a sudden you're going to come to the taxpayer and take a loan from the taxpayer to support this thing. And I don't think that's right. From a taxpayer's point of view, it's got to be sustainable, and we've got to have a significant amount of money available there. And $1 more, $500 more for Cabana, and we do that every year. Everybody sees an increase everywhere they go. And when you go on vacation, it's never the same as it was last year. They expect it. It's not a big deal. Okay? We're not going to lose. In fact, when they raised it, they still had more funds. They had fewer people, but they got more money. So there wasn't a negative impact, not a significant negative impact by getting a $1. So we've got to look at the fiscal responsibility. It's a little bit of a business decision. You know, it's hard. It's hard when you're dealing with people. And I have that all the time, you know. You got a nice person in there, but the business decision is the taxes are going up. I've got to raise your rent. I just have to do it. And that's what's happening here. Please, let's get a little more financially responsible in this thing and raise the fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. So last season, as you know, we raised the fees on the cabanas from $1,750 to $2,500, and we raised the one-time, the daily fee to get onto the beach from $6 to $8. So we're going to see another season how that goes. That was kind of the consensus from the work session that we had at 6 o'clock. So thank you, Stan. Anyone else? Thoughts from the council? If, then I will take a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item number
16.
16, A motion to approve a policy effective immediately that the hiring process for full-time employees except fire and police personnel shall not begin without the knowledge and approval of the town council.
Okay, well,
So moved.
So moved.
yeah, so moved.
We need a
Yep.
second. All right, go ahead, Patrick.
All right, I just wanted to alter that a little. Somehow the police and fire got exempted. I didn't want that exempted. So it should just read without that passage. So,
You want to amend the motion, so why don't you make
Correct,
an amendment
correct.
to
So-
remove?
except fire and police personnel.
All right, is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, discussion, Patrick.
You know, this has been called a hiring freeze. I call it more, as Ray pointed out, it's a hiring education for this town council. We need to keep track of personnel, and it's important to keep an eye on costs and who's coming and going. So I don't think it's a big burden for personnel, just for us to be informed. And that's what it's about. It's not putting the brakes on hiring. It's just being educated for us up here.
And
So-
you met, you and Pam have met on this to
Correct,
go over the
correct.
language. So Pam, did you want to talk about?
Well, I added the police and fire to that only because we had discussed it
Right.
at length. And I said that contractually, the police and the fire departments have to maintain eligibility lists. And it's in the contracts, but how long they have they only have a short period of time to fill that position. So
Correct.
that's why I put that in. That was the only reason.
Correct.
Patrick would like to know also, as we spoke about this just before this meeting, would also like to know when they're going to be hired. And your reply to me was it would make it easy to pass
Yeah,
them then.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if a
I just-
fireman.
I
or-
just wanted to avoid any confusion and make it clearer that we really don't have a lot of choice unless you decide completely not to fulfill the.
Right. I
to-
mean, if
to
we
fill
have
the-
contract obligations with police
do.
and fire, it should be an easy decision for this
Yeah.
council to say, yes, let's hire them. So, I mean, I don't think it's a roadblock. I think it's just, again, it's an education.
Okay, so I spoke on this motion last time, and I feel very much the same. We hired Pam Nolan as the town manager to make those decisions, and I am not getting involved. To me, it's a little bit on the micromanaging side, so I can't support it. They're union-filled positions. They have to be filled. I have confidence in the people at the town hall, so I just can't support it, and I appreciate what Patrick's trying to do. You need to do the work of the town, and I don't want to have to wait until it comes before the council for approval on those positions. And they're contractually already agreed to, so I still stand with the same position that I can't support this.
Karen?
I think the council's not finished discussing this. Anybody else, Ray, got something to add?
No, she can talk, though. We can, I mean, we
Oh,
could-
she can speak,
yes,
it's
she can
fine.
speak.
She wants to
I
get
know
in the
there was some
conversation.
discussion about eliminating the Personnel Committee. And I don't know legally, it was in the 10-year
charter.
plan, or whether they can modify that, or whether they can do that.
It's gotta be
But I think
legislated.
it's a political, they were saying, I thought I heard from Pam Nolan that, you haven't even heard what I was going to say, and you're shaking your head.
Because it's in the charter with the
All
personnel
right,
committee.
well, I thought I'd heard from you that we were one of the only communities in the state that had one.
That's right.
You may
Is
have heard
that what I,
You may have heard that statement from me,
That's
but
what I was-
but it would take a charter change.
right, well, can we do that before the next 10-year plan comes up? I'd like to see that whole step. I think it's too much power by people
That's up
that
to them.
weren't elected by the town.
Karen, I think Susan's been thinking about that, but this is a little bit of a different issue. The issue Patrick's put on the agenda is if we have an open position of one of our full-time employees who leaves or resigns from town, that we need authority from the council before Pam goes forward. So
All right,
it's a
I'm
little
just all
different.
for eliminating any kind of political patronage that comes in the hiring process, and that's why I mentioned the Personnel Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
there is a solution to this, and that's dropping an approval. Shall not begin without the knowledge of the town council. Now, the town council gets knowledge of something, it reacts. It may just be unhappy, it may be happy, but it doesn't call for an approval, which may be a formal vote, and that may take an extended period of time. But to me, I would just like the knowledge, and if it upsets me, well, then I get upset, and I say, oh, wow, do. But the process wouldn't stop, and so that, to me, I mean, the easiest thing is just drop an approval.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think we're getting pretty close to the bewitching hour of 8 o'clock here, but I'll just go back to my basic support for what Patrick's trying to do. I don't find this motion particularly threatening. What I see here is a member of the town council basically trying to get the same authority as the school committee does. The school committee is in charge of all the hiring. When the superintendent wants to hire a member of her staff, anyone who works in that school department has to go through the school committee. Same thing with the Narragansett Town Council. Anybody hired to work in the town should have the blessing of the town committee. If 85% of your budgetary costs are driven by personnel issues, I think it's about time that maybe Narragansett should look a little bit more seriously about getting a hold of their personnel issues.
Thanks, Chris. Ray?
I'm just going to agree with Chris. He took the thunder. But I don't want to micromanage the town manager. I think the town manager is a fine person and does a good job. I think the town manager stated that she's worked under these conditions before and found them acceptable. I think knowledge going out to the people is one of the best things that you could do. I would like to, at some point, add to that we have an enormous amount of overtime and it's under control right now. I'd like to know what it is, why it is. At some point, I'd like to understand what that is on a quarterly basis or something, instead of just seeing it at the end of the year. So knowledge is good. I like it. I like the idea. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
We got a break.
Good evening. I'm Lori Kelly. I'm the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Narragansett Library. And we also have an objection to this motion because the library is not exempted, and it really should be. Under the State of Rhode Island General Laws, Section 29(4)(6), it says the power to choose one or more competent persons as librarians and fix their compensation belongs to the trustees. So we do not, you cannot make us come to you to hire a full-time or an employee. So if you're going to exempt police and fire, I don't know where you are right now with that, but we ask that the library also be exempted for that reason.
Thank you.
Questions or?
So we can either call, we have an 8 o'clock where we have a public hearing, so we have our stenographer in the back awaiting. We can either call the vote now if the council wants, or we can continue this discussion after the 8 o'clock. What's the general?
I'd like to hear from Mark.
Okay, so
on
we'll
that point,
continue.
so I'd like
Okay.
to continue it,
Okay,
if you
so
don't
we'll-
mind. So
okay, so
motion
we're
to
just gonna-
continue?
Yeah, if you could do that, yeah.
Motion to continue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we have our public, excuse me, public hearing, Whale Rock Restaurant Group LLC, doing business as Tortuga Restaurant, 21 Pier Marketplace, Narragansett, Rhode Island, Plat C, Lot 319. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
She needs a minute to set up here.
I know. Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. All right, so we're going to take a minute for the stenographer to set up. Mark, did you want to say anything? Okay.
So do we?
We're not going to rush you, don't worry.
Continue that tonight? We're going to continue, and we'll finish comfortable. Okay.
Yeah, later tonight.
You're all ready to vote on it anyway.
We need to get that over with. Get it over with. How come he's got the little seats? You want to switch? You want to switch?
Are you ready? Okay. All right, so, but Mark, we want to swear in our first.
Sure, I'm not sure who's involved, but whoever's going to testify, if you could raise your right hands, please. Do you swear the testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And could both of you state your name and spell your last names for the record, please?
Jennifer McElroy, McElroy.
Thank you.
And Martin McElroy, McElroy.
Thank you. And then council can commence the presentation.
Joshua Sroka. Joshua Sroka, S-R-O-K-A, on behalf of Whale Rock and Tortuga Restaurant.
Thank you. Will you be speaking first?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You've pretty much laid it all out for us already.
Welcome.
We're here on application for a Class BV liquor license for 21 Pure Marketplace. We've submitted the application. I believe we have a few other items we need to submit, but we're certainly open for any discussion on that application.
Great. Do you have, basically, this is the license that we are transferring the license, I think, from Basil's. Is that the one that we're going to be?
It's not,
We know that there are two licenses available, so whichever one you want to.
Doesn't matter which
Well,
one.
It
let's-
doesn't, we'll
yeah.
take one. There's two, we only need one, so.
Let's hear from
Hi,
Mark.
we need to go one at a time just because otherwise we're not going to get a record out of this. The background is these applicants requested a liquor license. Initially, there was some discussion about a transfer of the Soho license. That's the location that you're moving into, I presume. You have a lease with Gilbane, I think, for that location. The question became, could that license be transferred? And it could not because it had expired. So actually, while we call it Soho's license or we call it Basil's license, it's the town's license with no name attached to it right now. It's like what it used to be in trying to figure out where they are located. So the question right now, it's a brand-new liquor license, eligible for anybody. They applied for it. They need to make an argument or a presentation to you, town council, as to why they're fit and suitable people to run the operation. Give some description as to what their plans are. Do they intend on making any significant changes to the operation that used to be at that same location? Because there's some history to the operation there. Present a menu. And then you have the right to impose any conditions, or we can go over the conditions that existed for that site, for the old license at that site, and you can then entertain any questions or comments you may want from the public.
So Mark, can I just ask you a question? The conditions that we had at Soho's, do you know what they are presently?
I'm getting them right now.
Yeah, just because I want to see if we would apply the same conditions to the applicants.
The only conditions that were imposed on the old Soho license for this location related to outdoor seating. They came before the former town council asking to expand the licensed premises to include some outdoor seating areas. And the requirements were that they could increase the seating from 16 to 26 in the outdoor area to include an outdoor portable service bar to serve patrons seated outside, and to allow to change the indoor service bar to include 6 seats at the bar to allow musical entertainment on the premises. That was granted with the following conditions. They had to provide a detailed floor plan seating for the outside dining area and portable service bar for fire marshal review and approval prior to issuance of the permit. They had to assure that proper protection of the outdoor bar area through physical barriers as necessary, and to submit this information to the fire marshal and building official for approval prior to the issuance of the permit or license. And then C was to identify locations for entertainment on the floor plan and attain fire marshal certification of compliance with the appropriate accessibility laws, and to provide adequate staffing at all times on the patio. And that the hours were, it was probationary. It was a probationary period through June 13th, 2013, and the permission was for a 1 to 3 person band only, and music to cease at 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
So that was the conditions imposed on the old liquor license, not the one you're being transferred, but the old license. And I'm not sure how your operation might be similar or different, and maybe you can explain that to the council.
Was it inside entertainment or outside? Because I know that we extended the seats to 16 to 24, but
It appears to be inside, Susan.
inside to
from the-
11 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So you are correct, we have signed a lease at 21 Pier Marketplace. It is subject to acquiring the full liquor license. Our concept for the restaurant will be an upscale, modern Mexican restaurant. Our plan is to utilize the existing footprint as it is. We will use the inside bar where it's at, the bar area. The dining rooms will remain the same. The outdoor seating area will also be in use when the weather is better. The outdoor space will be contained with a semi-permanent fence so that liquor is controlled under the circumstances. We are planning to hire about 25 employees, and we're not planning on doing any entertainment. So I think that summarizes what we're looking to accomplish.
Thank you.
The state imposes on us, you have to submit a menu that remains on file, so whether you have it now or whether you have it post a decision of the town council, that will be a requirement.
We did bring menus tonight.
Okay, cool.
Great, thank you.
Could you give those to,
I don't have it, so,
oh, she's got the menus. It's part of the requirement, the menu. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
There should be 6 there. I gave them all of them. You know.
Any reaction to the restrictions? Are those, if we move those restrictions over to you, would there be any that would be problematic?
I don't think we have any opposition to that.
Okay.
Save you a trip back.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be looking for a motion on this, and then we can have further discussion on that, a motion on this particular
So does,
license.
I mean, I support it, and I just don't know if anybody on the council has anything to say. If not, I'll put the motion on the floor.
Go ahead.
Anybody?
Second.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to make that motion to support.
Proponents and opponents are supposed to be called?
Wait, I was going to do the motion and then have the supporters and, yeah.
Oh, unless you want to
Do you
hear from
wa-
the public. Maybe we should hear from the public before we
Does
make a
anybody
motion.
from the public want to speak on this item?
You have to have a motion to speak on, don't you?
Right, you have the motion out
Yeah.
there, right? Okay, so Susan, go forward again.
All right, so I'll make a motion to support the license with the conditions.
Second.
All right, further discussion from the council? All right, best of luck, everybody. Motion, if all in favor?
Well, did we want to hear from the public before we?
Well, nobody raised their hand.
Nobody? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then call for a vote. I just didn't want to.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Now
Thank
we
you very
can
much.
Can we order now?
Yeah.
No.
Good luck. I guess if people were speaking against it, then we could hear, but nobody was, so.
No, we didn't
It's
have
good.
any. And now, Mark, do I need a motion to close the public
yeah,
hearing?
please, just to close out the agenda item.
All right, motion to close out the public hearing and the agenda item, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, we're going to now return to the item which, to refresh everybody's memory, is a motion to approve a policy effective immediately that the hiring process for full-time employees shall not begin without the knowledge and approval of the town council. And this was moved by Ray and seconded by Chris, I believe. So is there any further discussion on this motion?
I wanted to hear from Mark
About the
about the
library.
library.
Library's trust.
'Cause
Mark?
it's a separate entity.
I believe I've offered the opinion before that technically they're not town employees, they're employees of the library board of trustees under the state law and the charter. My opinion would be that they're exempt from the intent of the motion based upon the way the state law is structured.
Sure.
If you have some differing opinion and want me to look further at it, that's fine, but I'm going to say, if you pass the motion as is, my opinion is the library employees are exempt, trustees will still hire them.
So modify the
I'll
motion.
buy that.
So we don't have to modify this motion, is that
No,
correct?
is there a problem, Lori?
Okay.
Go ahead, yeah.
Because I feel very uneasy of us not being mentioned that in the future, 5 years from now, someone can say, oh no, you are town employees. So whether we are or not, I would feel better if you exempt us from that. Like, actually list that the library employees are not included in this.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just put maybe otherwise is exempt by state law, or, I mean,
You
it-
can, if you want to cover other
is it-
potential circumstances we had not thought of, Chris,
Yeah,
that might be, unless otherwise,
Vote against it, maybe, just the whole thing. Just an idea.
That's one option. That's certainly one option.
if you put unless
not.
otherwise required by state law or unless otherwise provided by state law, there'll be a motion to approve. The motion would read, if you want to add that, Chris, a motion to approve a policy effective immediately, comma, unless otherwise provided or required by state law, a policy for hiring full-time employees, et cetera, whatever you're going to add, police and fire, if they're in or they're out.
No, we had an amendment removing them, so they're gone.
All right, I'm not sure I don't know if that got voted on yet, did it, Ian, or not?
We haven't voted on any modifications at all.
You know,
Okay, there's an amendment that I believe that Patrick
Right.
made to it to include.
Not exempt police and
Not
fire.
to include police and
Right.
fire. I don't see throwing a whole bunch of stuff on top of it.
Right,
This is pretty
right. I mean, the
simple.
the
I'd like to
charter-
vote on it the way it is if we
yeah,
could.
the charter says they're a trust, they're exempt.
So before we vote on it, to Pam, I know that Ray just talked about you've worked under these conditions, but could you repeat to me again and the rest of the chamber how you felt about working under this kind of condition?
I have worked, especially when economic times are tough. I don't think it's a bad idea to educate the council. And you certainly have the right not to fill a vacancy. However, I think that your real shot at controlling the employees in this town and how many of them there are is when we do our budget, which we are just beginning. And the whole process is going to lay out in front of you, and you really should. We do, Laura and I meet with each department head, and they have to defend everything in their budget. I mean, zero-based budgeting. They defend every employee and why we need them. Every time there's an opening, I consider whether or not we truly have to have that employee. I think that I'm conservative, and I'm very cautious, not to say everybody who sits here will feel the same. I do think you hired me to be that way, and to be careful with taxpayer money is job number one. But as you asked, I have lived under these circumstances before, and the only place it bothers me is with police, really bothers me, is with police and fire, because there's a timetable there. And the chiefs both have to keep eligibility lists, and we only have so long to fill. And there's all kinds of requirements like psychological tests, agility tests, minimum manning requirements in fire also. That's true. So I think that there is a better place to do this. I think every single, like I stated before, all of our employees are unionized. So we're going to have difficulty with the union if this process takes a long time. If it does, I will come back and tell you, this is too clumsy.
Yeah.
We cannot do this.
Patrick, would it be acceptable if we excluded the approval part for police and fire? Because Richard had a good point there. That's the
Right.
only word there that I think Pam will have a stumbling block on with her
Right.
union. I still want the knowledge.
Right.
You guys
But
are
I'm worried about the
struggling
approval.
so much with this motion. I'm very uncomfortable with it. I say we
Well-
take it away.
Well, Susan, I know you don't want to
I like
micromanage,
knowledge.
but if we micromanaged our personnel hiring practices 20 years ago, we wouldn't be in the financial condition that we are in now.
So I'm just thinking the.
Okay, so
with the-
just to put, another vote to hire somebody, I don't think it's a big deal. 2 weeks, a department can't wait 2 weeks to get a yes from this council? I don't see that, anything short of war, I don't see where it's an issue.
Ask a question. I mean, the one thing, can I ask the chief of police, and I believe both chiefs, maybe Scott's also here, if there's all of the categories that they have in the hiring process,
You already know where I stand.
how time-consuming is this? Can I ask you how long it takes you to get a new recruit?
Especially when you work at the day job.
And with our retirements, we have a lot of vacancies at the bottom level.
Right.
So you do have psychiatric, You have physicals, you have, what else?
We do. I wasn't going to put my foot in this pond. I was trying to avoid it.
No, put it in. Go ahead. We want to hear what you have to say.
The process of a hiring process is obviously we try to always have, as Chief Partington does, an active list in place for new hires. I received notice today from one of my sergeants that he anticipates being retired by the end of February. I'll have his notice shortly. That sets into motion our process on the police side of looking at the next candidates on our list. That process will be calling them in for an interview with myself and the two captains, then a meeting with the manager, a background check that takes a couple weeks, psychological testing that could be put out depending on when you or I has availability for that person. And then in this particular case, the next academy is in July. So it's a cumbersome process for us to get through. 2 weeks time frame will not necessarily cripple us. Certainly, we want the council to be aware of the number of personnel I feel we need to adequately get the job done. It's certainly not an overnight process if I have a list in place to be able to hire someone the following day.
Right. That's that.
I seem to think, just if I may, Chief, just before you fire here, it's just one word I think might be hanging people up. It's shall not begin without the knowledge. I think that's a bad word. Just shall not be without the knowledge. No one's going to try and stop the police from recruiting, testing, and doing everything they should do. That's ridiculous.
There you go.
I think usually, like I said, what the school committee does, when the superintendent wants to hire someone, it goes on the agenda in a couple of days, and this is, I want to hire somebody. I always find things like this, to me, just almost being on the level of a consent agenda item. You're replacing someone. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal.
The one thing I did want to add, that we're currently going through a recruitment process now. We're taking in applications. That period has ended. When we have a chance to hire, and it could come up just suddenly, somebody could just put their papers in and say, I'm leaving, I'll see you, I'm going next week. So I go to my list, I want to hire. There's a lot of competition for these positions. We ask them to come in with a lot of qualifications now. We just did our ordinance now, and we're requiring them to be very competent, eligible candidates. I don't want to lose some of them to other departments. I want to be able to offer them a job as quickly as they become available, with the fear that, I may lose a very good eligible candidate. And as the police chief did mention, we vet them quite adequately. Not only do we, but the town manager insists upon interviewing with all of our hires. We just don't hire without the town manager's knowledge of that. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. So we went from, that was a good point that you made there, Chris. If we, instead of having not begin, if we reworded that, wordsmith a little bit, perhaps that, and this is, I gotta say, this is a worthwhile process. It really is. I mean, I need this knowledge. I need to know this. And that's the only reason I'm on board, because I want to know, because I don't want us to make the same mistakes going forward. So instead of shall begin, perhaps there's something else.
Shall be. I was just thinking about scrapping the letters G-I-N.
Shall be? That's fine.
That gives everybody the flexibility they want. The world's not going to explode in 2 weeks, I don't think. I think it's
Let's
just,
hope not.
And for me, it's just a point of information. Heck, last time I read the newspaper, when you guys wanted to hire another cop, you went before the council anyway. Right.
Yeah. No,
I mean, we had that relationship. We were pretty much in touch, so I don't see what another little check and balance is going to.
So I would motion that we make that change to not be instead of not begin.
I'll second that.
Okay, do you want to vote on that amendment right now? Further discussion on that particular amendment?
No.
All right, all in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Amendment approved 4-1. Okay, so The amendment crossing out the exception for police and fire exemption, we didn't vote on, so we have to now discuss that. Patrick had moved, and that had been seconded, to cross out except fire and police personnel. Any further discussion on that amendment? Ann, do you have that? Great. All right. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
All right. Amendment approved 3-2. Okay, so now we are finally to the language of a motion reading, a motion to approve a policy effective immediately that the hiring process for full-time employees shall not be without the knowledge and approval of the town council. Just for clarification, that is the motion.
Could you
we
read that
have.
one more time?
One more time. So this is the amended motion. 2 amendments have gone through. A motion to approve a policy effective immediately that the hiring process for full-time employees shall not be without the knowledge and approval of the town council.
Was there some language in there that Mark might have suggested that might exempt anything that falls under a state mandate or something?
But we didn't, there was no amendment for that.
Yes, it
All
could
right, I
be.
don't want to go there. Okay, sorry.
I don't want to go down that road.
I think we're good to go with that one.
I'm happy
Let's
with
vote
that.
on it.
All right, any further discussion on this motion? All right, conceptually, Patrick, good concept. I would have liked the wording to have been a little better, but,
Well, that's,
okay.
you know,
Yeah.
that's where we hammer it
All
out,
right.
you know?
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed? A motion approved 4-1. All right, we are now
Just in
going
case
to
you guys did
return, we got it.
Just in case you missed that,
All
boys.
right, to item number 14 on the agenda. A motion to approve the request for an easement over a portion of the northerly portion of Lot 329 on Assessor's Plot P on Point Judith Road to OC Realty LLC and various licenses for signage and landscaping, and that the town receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
still here?
All right, John Kenyon is here representing the potential buyers, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. I'm John Kenyon, attorney for the applicant, OC Realty LLC. We're here tonight on a request for an easement over a portion of the town property located off of Point Judith Road. My clients in the property have purchased in property at 360 South Pier Road, which currently contains the roller skating rink. We were before the council on October 6th of last year, at which time we made our presentation, our request for the easement, and the matter was referred to the planning board for a recommendation. We appeared before the planning board on November 18th of last year. They made a positive recommendation subject to 7 conditions, which we reviewed and were in agreement with. Since we were last before the council, we made some minor changes to the easement plan. We've also completed the traffic study, which was requested at the town council meeting. We'd like to present those tonight. I have with me Matt Vienna from Millstone Engineering and Robert Clinton from VHB Engineering, as well as Anthony Del Vicario, who's representing the applicant. If I could have Matt come up first. Do you want to have Matt sworn in, or?
It's not a public hearing, yeah. What's your full name again, sir?
Matthew Viana, V-I-A-N-A.
Thank you.
And Matt, where are you employed?
Millstone Engineering.
And what are your duties there?
I'm a senior civil engineer.
Are you a registered engineer in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with the applicant's property located at 360 South Pier Road?
Yes, I am.
And how is that property currently accessed?
Currently through a private right-of-way, coming off the South Pier Road. Currently, access to the Ocean Club is provided by a private right-of-way that,
Is that where the laser pointers?
yes, it's coming off of South Peel Road, heading south to the termination of that right-of-way at the subject property.
And did you review the title for the existing private right-of-way that runs from South Pier Road?
Yes, we did.
And in your research, did you find that the private right-of-way was originally a platted road?
It's a platted private road.
And were the property owners that abutted the private road granted access over that?
Yes, they were.
And could you explain the existing condition of the roadway?
Currently, it's a 35-foot right-of-way with at least a 24-foot paved roadway. That's been being used for the better part of 60 years.
And is the applicant proposing to upgrade the existing right-of-way?
Yes, it would be milled and repaved with an overlay.
And is he also proposing curbs on the east side of the right-of-way?
At the direction of the town engineer.
And is he proposing to allow the businesses on the west side to still have access to their properties?
Yes.
And at the request of the planner, did you propose increasing the curve going out onto South Pier Road?
Yes, the right-hand turn from the right-of-way onto South Pier Road will be made to be more convenient for that turn.
And has the applicant agreed to maintain that portion of the private road in perpetuity?
Yes.
And did you also prepare an existing condition plan for the proposed access easement?
Yes, we did.
And is that what's currently on the board right now?
Correct, that's the concept of the easement
And is that the existing condition plan?
Yes.
And could you just briefly explain what's currently on the town property?
Currently, it's a vacant property with the water department has a small building with a booster station and some underground fixtures that should not be affected by the proposal.
And in 1987, did the town purchase a portion of the property from the property owner to the north?
Yes,
And is it your understanding that the purpose of that was to create the curve coming out for the connector road?
that is my understanding.
And did you also prepare the proposed easement plan?
Yes, we did.
And is a copy of that on the board now?
Yes.
And approximately how wide is the requested easement?
I believe it varies as you see the shape to accommodate the roadway, but it's generally 50 to 60 feet wide.
And does the proposed access easement provide access to the Kellen property, which currently contains Adventureland?
Yes, at the east end, the top of the plan.
And have you also provided access for the property to the north, which contains the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes, we did.
And has that property owner requested that the access areas be changed due to their traffic configuration on their lot?
Yes, they've requested another curb opening at the east end of the property to accommodate their deliveries.
And has the applicant agreed that he'll do whatever the traffic engineers determines the best?
Yes,
means?
yes.
And in your opinion, does the proposed easement line up with the current access out across the street to the Salt Pond Shopping Plaza?
Yes, that's the point.
And will the construction of the access easement require changes to the signalized light?
Yes, it will.
And has the applicant agreed to pay for the approval and changes to that light?
Yes, he has.
And has the applicant also agreed to pay for all the construction for the improvements of the access easement?
Yes.
And did you receive a letter from Carty Corporation giving an estimate that the cost of improvements would be $407,270?
I believe that's the number.
And did Carty also state that they can provide a performance bond for that work?
Yes, they did.
And has the applicant also agreed to maintain the access easement in perpetuity?
Yes.
And can the proposed access easement be constructed in a manner that does not affect the town's use of the property as it's currently using it?
Yes, correct. It should not affect the water department's facilities.
And if it has to be, can it, the road be reinforced so the water vault has no issues?
Certainly.
And with the construction of the proposed access easement, does it still provide for enough property on the town's lot that a future use could be put there?
Yes, I believe it's over 25,000 square feet remains.
I have no further questions of Mr. Deanna, if the council has any.
Thank you. Any questions?
I had a question. the paved road's 24 feet wide?
Correct. It's at least that wide now.
Right, right. And then, but the easement's 35 feet?
Correct.
So is there grass on either side, or are you gonna run pavement that whole 35 foot? Or is it 24 feet only?
The plan is to overlay what's there now.
Right.
And work with the western abutters and the town. If islands can be worked into it, we're certainly happy to do it. But
Right.
currently, it's almost an entire curb opening from end to end.
Right, so most of it's all blacktop?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Now the maintenance, is there a time limit on that maintenance? Like,
No.
In
I believe
I mean,
it's in
it's-
perpetuity.
In
okay,
perpetuity.
so it's lifetime, okay.
And the plan is to tie in the cost of maintenance into the ownership of the 360 South Road
Right.
property, so if it's not paid for, it'd be a lien on that property.
Okay, so it's the whole from Point Judith Road and the dog legs over to South Pier Road, and that's all gonna be maintained
Correct.
by you folks? Okay,
Yep, the entire extension that exists now.
right,
and then-
okay.
Are you done, Patrick?
Yes.
Oh, so
Yes.
I just want to ask a couple of questions. I'm generally in favor of the project. I got to come right out and say that. I did go to the planning board and listen to some of the testimony there, and I just had a couple of questions about the signage. You're going to have a sign in the front, right? And so people would know that there was going to be a sign there. The road that's going to be heavily traveled is the back road, where the residents of the town might go in and out of that road. Is there anything as far as the maintenance or widening that road? I know there's the car wash and there are the vacuum cleaners there. I know when I drive down that, it's pretty narrow. So I was just wondering for the access for the locals that live in town, was that part of a conversation at all?
Yeah, it's, the use of the right-of-way will be for all. It's not a restricted roadway in any way.
It's going to be open to the public.
No, but are there going to be any improvements to that road, I guess my question is, to that back road?
Yes, that's what he was discussing at the beginning, the improvements to the existing.
In the back?
The back road.
Right.
Widen?
Well, the right-of-way is 35 feet wide, and it's almost paved.
Yeah, pretty much,
The
yeah.
entire way now. They do plan on putting curbs, which would align it a little bit better, but it can't go any wider than the 35 feet.
So it can't be widened. What about those vacuum cleaners in the back? I mean,
They're on the property of the car wash. They're not in the right.
so there would be no buffer or anything there, it would just be open. I know that was a discussion, and I actually think that that's going to be a heavily traveled road. Not only does it need to be maintained, I think, but I'm concerned about it's narrow. So that was one thing. And then part of the agreement I read was that it was all these improvements and the light and everything were in exchange for the easement. Is there any conversation about dollar signs for the easement? Or is that ever a conversation about the value of what that easement would be? Or is that just, was it just an exchange?
We were intended on being an exchange. If the easement was for private use and was just going to be used by my client, then I could understand there being some reimbursement. But the fact that it's going to be open to the public, it's for the people of the town, we considered the fact that he's going to be putting in the improvements that the town's been looking to do since 1987 as a fair exchange for the grantee of the easement.
Right, because that was in the comprehensive plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious about that piece of it, because I know it's a valuable piece of land.
You all set?
Yeah, yeah.
The chief, the police chief had a concern on the left turn when you're heading south. And I was wondering if maybe you can elaborate on that, chief. I saw it in your write-up. I know that you don't want people crossing to get into the things like the Dunkin' Donuts and those things, and that might cause some issues. Am I correct?
He doesn't look like he knows.
I saw it in your comments.
He's like.
I'm sorry, I read everything.
I'd like to have a Jersey barrier from the light down past Mariner Square, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
to block
and I'm
all
with
of the
you.
turns on 108.
Or can
No,
you
is there
decide?
anything other than the Jersey barrier that could be done, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I mean, obviously, this will be a signalized intersection, which will be a lot more appropriate than what takes place now out of all those businesses with people turning across 4 lanes of traffic to go south. It would be an improvement if they were forced to use that intersection to then cross Point Judith Road.
Okay, but there's no study or anything that's been done to help that situation? Just asking.
No, actually, I'm going to have the traffic engineer testify next, but I believe the chief's concern is, my understanding is you believe that putting in the light and the access road would be a benefit, but you would like it more if there was a way to block people from coming out of the Point Judith Road businesses and crossing the entire 4 lanes.
Yeah, all the way from the intersection,
Right,
which
but
obviously
that-
is not their problem, but.
No, I just-
A signalized intersection is certainly going to be better than what exists right now.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up because I saw it in in your comments,
Yeah,
and I
that's
thought,
always a
I thought that
concern.
was a great idea, but if we can't get them to pay for it, then heck.
And the other thing is it's a state road, so I believe they would have to.
Do we know what's going to be in the business in that roller rink?
Right now, he's had discussions with 2 major grocery stores. He doesn't have a signed lease yet. He does have a letter that was just given to me this afternoon from Dave's. It's a non-binding letter of intent.
Thank
And
you.
he's also been talking to Aldi's Supermarket, which is a national chain.
Yeah, that was probably going to be my first question, John, is what name's going to be on that sign? I mean, it's the worst kept secret in town, for God's sakes.
Not really.
We're being lobbied by the guy. I mean, on that private, quote-unquote, private road, I just had a couple of minor questions on that. Who actually who owns that private road? Is it does it have to be abandoned and assumed by the town and maintained by you?
No, it was never accepted by the town. It's a private road. The people that platted the property probably still own the fee to the road, but all the property owners around it have the right to go over it. And over the years, the owner of the roller skating rink has maintained it, so that's why my client stepped forward and said he will continue maintaining it.
But I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
Mark can correct me, doesn't there have to be a name attached to it? or-
Yeah, the one question that one of the questions I raised, and then listening to John and looking at the title information is, who owns it and who can consent to it being an open and free public
Yeah,
right-of-way
that's-
forever? Because we don't have that right now. So technically, the owner, the heirs of the original group that platted it, if found or located or came forward as their assignees, could say, we want to close this off. Now, there'd be a fight over whether there's been a dedication by prescription, et cetera, but there's no guarantee, like if it was my property and I gave you an easement saying it's open to the public forever. We don't have that for the right-of-way that exists right now, I don't think, John.
No, we don't have a deed for the right-of-way.
And we have no one that's going to grant it and put a condition on it that's always open to the public forever, because we don't know who the owners are.
But we're just going
For
to
the-
approve
the
it without
back
knowing
road.
who the owners are?
For the
Right.
back road.
The right-of-way over the town property would have that.
Understood. It's the concern that Chris raised, and one of the concerns I raised, is that what guarantee do we have from the fee owners or whoever has the authority that that back right-of-way will remain always open to the public? Because technically, it's private property that someone could come forward, if those heirs are identified, to make a claim and try and restrict access. And as I said, that would precipitate litigation over whether it had been dedicated by prescription or a whole bunch of other things, but is that something we want to get involved in?
Right, well, and also, though, the property, the lot owners were all given the right to go over that road, and also their guests and invitees, so it's open to the public.
But if one decides they don't want to do that,
That's right.
I'm not sure. I'm looking for a title opinion that says it can remain open and free to the public for that back right-of-way. I know by use it has.
Yeah, and just, that's one thing I just didn't, I think everybody here looks pretty favorably on the proposal. It's just these little nagging questions we're not sure of. Do we have to assume, do we advertise for it? Do we assume that we own it after that and take it over and give it away? Because, put it this way, if on the east side, I see a big black line there, John, separating the apartment complex from the road, and on the west side, I see I see 6 businesses that have been pretty free-flowing with that area. It's just, it's not like a road. It's like an all-purpose type of, it's like roller derby type of thing there. Now you're gonna put curb cuts in there for each individual business. So here we are, we're making improvements to the road, making improvements to the road that we don't own.
Well, once again, the road isn't going to be turned over to the town. That portion of the road will stay in the same
you're gonna make improvements.
ownership that it is now. We are proposing curb cuts on the east side of the existing road, and then curb cuts on the west side where the business owners permit them. Obviously, if a business owner has an opening and wants to keep it open, we're not going to stand here and tell you we're going to close that.
That was a concern, that they had adequate curb cuts to allow them access through that themselves, that make it easy for them, yet doesn't interfere with the flow of traffic that goes north to south there.
Right.
Mark, what do you think about that as far as that back road? I mean, legally.
I don't know.
Well, the easement, just as part of that, so the easement, John, you drafted, I'm assuming.
The proposed easement.
Yeah, that's in our packet.
That's in your package is for the town property.
Mm-hmm.
The easement over the existing back road was in 1915, that was platted. The property owners were given the right to use that in perpetuity. So it's been there for 100 years. They've been using it for 100 years.
But what I'm getting at is the easement for the change. You sent over to Mark and to Mike DeLuca.
We did send over to
Okay.
Mark. I did not draft that.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Originally
that,
drafted
okay.
that, but I
Okay.
have sent it to Mark to review.
Okay, so, but we really haven't got feedback from our attorney on that easement. I mean, Mark, you've looked at it briefly, but we don't have we haven't had there's not really been an in-depth conversation between you and the attorneys for,
Right,
and John.
as you and I spoke about, Matt, I got it Wednesday or Friday, late last week. I did mark it up, at least a quick markup that I sent an email back to Pam and to Mike DeLuca, which I think was forwarded on to you, some preliminary comments. And I told John I've got some edits that are going to come. Didn't have enough language relative to maintenance, didn't have enough language in it relative to town approvals of the sign plaza, of the landscaping plan, of the construction itself. It did not have an insurance requirement, did not have a provision making that it's a lien against the real estate if they don't do the repairs. There were a litany of things that I just ticked off quickly by going through it, all of which, I'm going to mark up and get back to John as if you approve it, because obviously one of the conditions the planning board suggested was I have to review and approve the easement based upon whatever direction you give me. I'm assuming that would be similar if you guys decide to approve it. I raised the question of compensation, and that's a policy decision.
Well, that was my question, John, and I know you answered Susan's very artistic answer to Susan's question, but it is a property interest in easement, and I think there should be some level of negotiation. It was my first question. I went and met with Mike just to get briefed on the project. I think there's kind of 2 pieces here. We need to get, I think, the actual easement that's in front of us. We need to approve that easement. I don't like the idea of approving it contingent on edits that are in our best interest. I'd rather have the final version in front of us, and that hasn't been kind of hashed out between the attorneys. And I think the second thing is there is a value to a property interest, and an easement is giving that. And I think I would give direction to our solicitor to at least explore some, to use an appraiser and get some kind of value for that. And obviously you could come back at him and say, I don't want to give you any money for that. That's obviously a prerogative, but I think that discussion hasn't been had. I guess my question is that discussion has not been had.
Right, and we agree it's reasonable that the town might want some reimbursement, as long as it takes into account the improvements that my client's putting in and the fact that it'll be open to public, then we're willing to go through that process.
So my sentiment on it would be, and I know there's a lot of people who want to talk about it, and there's a lot of people I know who want to talk about, we want to get a marketplace in there, or there are people who will say want to keep it the way it is. But my piece of the puzzle is there's a legal question of an easement that I don't think we can approve tonight the language that we have right now. And I would like to see you and our town solicitor getting together, hashing out that language, so then we have a final package in front of us. And my hope was we would have gotten that. Whole reason we referred it to planning board was to get that. And I think I'm not blaming the planning board. I think they did a good job with what they had. We didn't give them direction, hash out easement language, get a dollar value. Probably should have given them more direction on those fronts. But that's kind of my sentiment on it right now, regardless of who's going in and who's not. And I think you can appreciate that. So, yeah.
I understand that the
Okay.
council might want more finalized. I just received correspondence from Mark that he did have these concerns regarding these issues, and the language we discussed should be in the easement.
And I apologize, that was late in the game because we should have obviously gotten to you sooner having these discussions during the month of December because this was on the planning board agenda, I believe, in late November. So, but still we don't want to do something where we're not doing what's in the best interest of our townspeople. So that's kind of where I stand. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks on
I
those
echo
issues.
that. I mean, I, again, am generally in favor of it. I'd like to see the solicitor and you get together to look at what's in the agreement and what's the best for the town. But, overall, I support it, but I'm worried about the maintenance and I'm worried about the value of the easement.
If possible, I'd like to present the traffic engineer tonight. So while
Sure.
he's here, we can get through that. And then, what I would like, if we can get feedback and direction from the council, then we can work with Mark who come up.
Hopefully we get direction on kind of these items. We've talked about those three issues, the maintenance, the compensation, and then the finalized language. That would be my sentiment. I'm just one of five, but that's where I would be going. But yeah, if you want to bring the traffic expert.
Before you move on, though,
Go ahead,
Mark,
Ray.
how long is it going to take to get through this? I mean, you listed, what, half a dozen things here.
How long?
Are we talking about a couple of weeks?
No, my edits and comments would be done probably by the end of the week or the weekend when I catch up on things that are pending. So it's a week or
this
10
is-
days to get edits to
right.
John and then have his client react to them. But I've identified the areas that I'm probably going to be including in the comments right now that are pretty straightforward, I think.
Okay, thank you.
And John, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not that crazy about really bumping you for a lot of money for the easement. I mean, we're going to be getting you for real estate taxes anyway, 1.5 times residential rate. And how many people will you be employing here? Assuming it is Dave's.
Well, I can't speak to, I'm not representing Dave, so I can't speak to the number of employees or the business tax on that.
Oh, okay. Is anybody going to speak to that tonight?
I could have my client discuss. I would like to get to the traffic engineer and then
Go right ahead.
maybe have him come up.
What's your name, sir?
Good evening. My name is Robert Clinton. I'm with the firm Vanass, Hang & Breslin, VHB.
Thank you.
And are you a registered engineer in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes, I am.
And do you specialize in traffic engineering?
Traffic and transportation, yes.
And are you familiar with the applicant's property at 360 South Pier Road?
Yes, I am.
Are you also familiar with the proposed access easement over the town property?
Yes,
And in general, are you familiar with the traffic in that area?
yes.
And you and your company studied traffic in that area previously?
Yes, we have.
For what type of projects?
We worked at the Department of Transportation. It is under their jurisdiction. We've looked at the traffic signals along Point Judith Road. We've done numerous studies and adjusted the signal timings based on seasonal adjustments and things like that.
And did you prepare a traffic report at the request of the applicant?
Yes, we have.
And did you analyze what effect the proposed access road would have on traffic safety in the area?
Yes, we looked at both the traffic volumes and also the safety impacts.
And did you or your firm complete traffic counts in that location?
Yes, we did. We did those during the summer months in order to represent the worst-case scenario when you have the summer peaks. And the time periods that we looked at, we like to look at the evening peak and also the Saturday midday peak.
I think you're the first traffic engineer I've had that actually did it during the summer months.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have the luxury of doing it, or like a project is going out and they need to do them. There are adjustment factors that can be used, but it's best to use this actual summer peak volumes when you have that ability.
And what did those traffic counts come up with?
Yeah, we performed what's called a capacity analysis, and that, as in school, you have a letter grade A, B, C, A to F, and F obviously being the worst, A being the best. In traffic engineering, there is a level of service E, which I don't remember ever getting an E in school, but traffic engineering has a level of service E. We also looked at the existing conditions, then we looked at a projected future no-build scenario. The no-build scenario includes background traffic growth expected to occur whether this project's built or not. We then added the projected traffic of the proposed facility and also assumed that all of the traffic from the new facility would be exiting onto Point Judith Road in order to be conservative, overestimating the traffic. Obviously, some of the traffic is going to use we call it a backage road, that roadway behind all the businesses, to access South Pier Road. So, by assuming all the traffic is coming out of Point Judith, we were conservative in our assumption, and we also assumed only a 15% pass-by rate. Typically, retail businesses have a much higher 50% of the traffic is already on the adjacent roadway and stops into the facility going to another place. So we overestimated the traffic to make sure that by adding this fourth leg to that signalized intersection that it would operate efficiently. And we noticed by doing that, even with those conservatively high traffic volumes, that the intersection can accommodate the projected increase in traffic at this intersection.
And did you also analyze the accident data in that area?
Yeah, it's interesting. The Narragansett Comprehensive Plan states that this section of Point Judith Road has a very high number of crashes due to the multiple curb cuts, which have been mentioned, and the number of left turns in and out, like the police chief has mentioned. That's an area of concern to the town. The DOT is also aware of this condition along here, and we have had some preliminary talks with the DOT about this proposal. Obviously, it's their Point Judith Road is under their jurisdiction, and they would have to approve this modification anyway. They are in favor of this. They understand that not everybody is going to make their left turns in or out using the new signalized intersection, but during peak periods, people are going to soon realize that that's the best alternative for them to make left turns in and out of there. They too, like the police chief said, would like to see some type of physical barrier, but it's a detriment to the businesses in that area, and it's beyond the scope of this project or this developer's purview to do anything to affect those businesses.
And in your opinion, will it help the traffic or the customers who are driving southbound who now cross the 4 lanes to get into these businesses? Can they now go down to the light?
Yeah, during certain times of the day and certain seasons, everybody doesn't need to be told that you can easily make left turns in and out of there. But other times of the day and certain seasons, you can't. It's very difficult to make those movements, and this provides them the ability to make a decision and during those peak times utilize the safer access.
And the same thing for the customers of the businesses that are coming out and crossing the 4 lanes, they can now come out and use the light to go south.
Right, they'll soon be aware that that's the wiser decision, and it's actually going to be a comparable in time. It's not going to save them that much time trying to risk crossing all those lanes. They're going to have the ability to utilize the traffic signal and make those movements.
And is it your professional opinion that the installation of the light and the construction of the access road would potentially reduce the number of accidents in this area?
Yeah, it's going to be a benefit to not only the proposed development, but it's going to be a benefit to the town and the state.
And speaking of the state, did you also receive a letter from Robert Smith of the Rhode Island Department of Transportation?
Yes, I did.
In the letter, did he agree that the proposed access road could be beneficial to the motoring public?
Yes, he did. One other thing that I just wanted to clarify too, when we were discussions earlier about the width of the roadway, typical travel lanes are 12 feet wide. If you have two travel lanes, it's 24 feet. So, you know, I think the delineation of the lanes and the clarifying where those openings are is going to be a big improvement to that section of that backage road, as I call it.
You're talking about the back road there, they had concern about the 35-foot width.
Right, with that 35 feet, you can delineate that such that there is room for vehicles to be over at the side of the roadway. You can have a clearly defined two travel lanes, and you can have a shoulder which can be utilized by some of the adjacent businesses. So, you know, 24 feet plus, you know, 8 feet parking lane or whatever, that's still, you know, 32 feet wide. So you have excess room there to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic and some vehicles along the side of the roadway.
When you do your study, do you target a type of business and a customer account? Is that how you do it?
Well, we in this case, when we initially did our study, we weren't sure who the developer would find, and in the future, we're still not sure who.
No, understood. I
who it's gonna be.
I just wanted how you came up with the
Right.
with
There are
numbers, that's all.
this is a general a retail type of business. However, you know, in order to accommodate, you know, that fluctuation like you're talking about, because there is a big fluctuation depending on who the.
Sure. That's
why we only use the 15% pass-by rate. So our new trips to the site are much higher than would be projected for, you know, just a typical retail. So I think we feel, and the other conservative assumptions that we made, assuming that all the traffic came out to Point Judith Road. So we really feel comfortable with these numbers, so that if it were, you know, if you used actual pass-by rates, and
It could be
you
double
changed-
this because of the egress, right?
we
I
feel
understand.
comfortable.
No, I
Yep, no, that's a
found
good,
it
very good
interesting, that's
question.
all.
Yep.
Have you given much, maybe I missed it, much thought and consideration to what's going to ultimately happen with the congestion at the intersection of the private road and South Pier?
Behind the liquor store, you think?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I see that's a private road now, and just sort of locals use it, and it's pretty convenient, and it's not well-traveled. But this is going to change the whole dynamics. You have a liquor store right on the corner there, then one thing after another. It seems, what's the congestion factor going to be there now?
Well, right now, everybody's forced to come, you know, head north, you know, and go out that way. People that live south on Point Judith Road, in order to access the liquor store, like you said, a lot of them have to come in and out onto South Pier Road. So this, you know, I don't think it'll increase the left turns out of that backage road onto South Pier. It may increase the right turns out of there. And however, you know, the right turn, the left turns are the big concern coming out of an unsignalized intersection. Left turns in and left turns out are the critical movements. So there will be an increase in congestion at that location. However, you know, we don't think that the left turns out of the site, out of that location, are going to increase significantly based on, you know, where people are going. If you're not going to use that roadway to make the left turn.
And if there is a use put in the current landscape rig, which we hope there is, that congestion is going to be much worse if this access road isn't put in, and everybody will be coming in and out.
Right.
Are there any other questions for this gentleman? Right. Yeah, whose hand is up? Richard.
I was going to ask Mr. Delchario just to answer
Do you have one or two more people to go? I just have one more. Okay. Let's do that. Want to do that first, Richard, or do you want to go now? Yeah, let's do that now. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
You can state your name for the record.
Anthony Del Vicario.
And are you the owner of OC Realty LLC, which is the applicant?
Yes, I am.
And there was a question earlier about the potential use of the property. Could you explain that a little bit better to the council?
Yes, we targeted a couple of grocery firms that I've talked to extensively. One is Dave's Market, and the other is Aldi's Market, which owns Trader Joe's National. It's a national tenant. And we have a letter of intent from Dave's Market. You mentioned you were interested in the employment numbers.
I think someone on the council did, yeah, the employment numbers, yeah.
We're looking at probably 40 to 50 employees, okay, for this type of operation. So that's what
Thank you.
With Dave's, did they mention it would be the same size and type of store as the one in Wickford?
Yeah, approximately, yes. That is correct.
Good.
I'd like to also, by the way, for clarification on the easement issue, we did extensive research on the deeds on that property because we knew that was the centerpiece of this whole situation, and we researched the history of the Ocean Club and how that all developed. In 1898, that land was platted as one piece. In 1915, it was broken up into four pieces, four owners, of which they agreed, the four owners agreed in 1915 to create the easement that you see there today. So that easement's been there for 100 years. We found the actual deed and the agreement that was made, and the agreement states very clearly that that right-of-way would be used by those four people, landowners, for their property fronting on that easement in perpetuity. I mean, the words are stated in perpetuity. So very unambiguous language as far as, that right of way. Also, in 1981, approximately.
So those were recorded? When were those recorded?
I'm sorry?
When were those recorded?
When was it recorded? 1915?
1915, okay.
Platted in 1898, the agreement was actually made and recorded in 1915. So for 100 years, that's been used and unaltered as you see it today, okay? And it has the key words are in perpetuity. So everybody that fronts on that road relied on that language. And in 1981, the Ocean Club, the present owner, pulled a building permit. The town at that time deemed that road to be a town road, well, qualified as frontage because they gave the owner a construction permit to build the Ocean Club. And that was done as a matter of right. So somebody acknowledged that road as being a road, okay? So that wasn't granted as part of some zoning relief request or anything like that. It was given as a matter of right. So that's kind of the background and the history of, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be here tonight, because I think the whole issue rests on the legality, as you pointed out, of the right-of-way. So I think we're in good shape on that.
I have no further witnesses. If the council or the public have any...
Yeah, we may come back to you. Yeah, I think now we're probably going to hear from some members of the public. If any, I saw some hands up.
Richard.
Go ahead, sir. Oh, Richard's next. Sorry.
Just a thought. I would hope when we get a dialogue between two people, we either have two mics or we shift them because, it is a little bit of a mystery as to what people are saying, this problem. So we might either want to shift or go with two, or if you're a Russian, you can get a troika and handle this. Now, I did, by the way, in October, make a strong case for the town getting money for the easement. And I go back, I guess, to My Fair Lady. I have often gone down the street before, and it's something like 1915 in Abilene. It is the Wild West. And it is very, very lawless. I don't know if there is a dividing lane or not. It certainly doesn't seem to be one. And it's really protest private roads, parking lots being used as highways. And this truly is being used as a highway in a completely lawless manner. And I think we have to address this. It's certainly not, this is not the only place in Narragansett where this is true. And I'm certainly not holding them to a higher standard, but believe me, I've never seen a policeman on that road. They're probably too scared. They know what's going on there. This is not a safe place, period. Anything that is going to bring more traffic there is very, very unwise unless we fess up and actually make this into a street where there can be laws that apply.
Thank you, Richard. Sir?
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Stephen Mackey. I'm an attorney, and I represent Mr. Batista, who's the owner of the Dunkin' Donuts franchise, which is adjacent to the easement, and Mr. DeAngelis, who's the owner of the real estate on which the franchise is located. They have submitted to the panel, I think you have them, copies of a map dealing with the same property you've seen up here. And there are two things that they're looking for, and one are the two curb cuts, which are depicted on both on here and on the map that we submitted. And the second one deals with the safety issue of the left turn at that light, the light that will be installed if this is approved. And they made a suggestion that there be a third lane, if you will, at the entrance off Point Judith Road. And that will be a short road of approximately 60 to 80 feet. It would be between the in and out lanes. It would allow for a left turn into the Dunkin' Donuts through the curb cut there. It would hold approximately 4 cars. And this would prevent people entering to the new location from taking another left turn across oncoming traffic and blocking that road while they're doing such. We think that will relieve some of the traffic on Point Judith Road. It will make it easy for someone to turn into the Dunkin' Donuts shop, and those turning into the store will not be blocking the traffic entering that highway. We've given you the plans, and I think you also provided a traffic engineer's report on that, which was favorable for doing that. So what we would be looking for is that lane that would be an exclusive left-hand turn lane. It could be marked with stripes or a sign, and would then merge back into the 2 normal lanes. Is there any questions? Mr. DeAngelis and Mr. Batista are here.
Have you spoken to any staff about this request in particular?
I don't have that. Did you say you submitted this?
Mr. DeAngelis delivered the plans and the letters.
Was it with the original motion back in late October-ish? Would you have sent it that early?
I have a report from Crossman Engineering.
Sir, could you speak into the mic, please? The audience can't hear.
I'm sorry. I have a report from Crossman Engineering that I made 5 copies of.
It
Did I not?
went to the council, Pat, it went.
Oh, okay.
Previous council.
You have, and again, the main concern here is when I saw this proposal, I went to Crossman Engineering. I spoke to Mike DeLuca to answer your question. He and I have met 2 or 3 times on this. I had some concerns, and I went to the engineering firm. He made 3 suggestions.
Can you speak into
A
the
curb
mic a
cut
little bit?
on the eastern side of the property, move the curb cut on the southern side of the property a little more eastern so that it would allow for the backup of the drive-through. And the third was, again, if you're heading north on Point Judith Road and you take a right, to put approximately a 60, 80-foot lane where it's dedicated, it's a left-hand lane, okay, and you can turn. So if you can't turn immediately, you're not going to back traffic up onto Point Judith Road. Now, the only concern here is, and I talked to Mr. Kenyon, I guess the planning board's suggestion was whatever the engineers agree on is fine. The thing is, the original proposal, as you have it, asked for an easement of 14,092 square feet. To put this additional lane in, it's an additional 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. And again, the developer would have to agree to pave an additional 1,000, 1,500. But again, I'm just concerned that you're going to approve the easement as it stands, and the engineers may say left lane is good, but you won't have room for it.
I think that makes an awful lot of sense, because I was thinking if people are coming obviously north on the road and going to take that right, there could be a backup on that road that could go quite a bit if they're turning into Dunkin' Donuts.
Simple.
It makes sense, and I don't know how to move forward, Matt.
Well, I mean, I think I do want to hear there's a lot of people from the public here and want to talk about it, but I think that the language of the easement in all of this, in this planning, is some of the things we would want to direct John and Mark to work out. And, you know, I kind of outlined 3 things that went with that, but
Yeah.
as I said earlier, which are
Yeah.
basically the final version of the easement, compensation for the easement, and the maintenance of the portion of the road connecting
Yeah.
South Pier to the roller rink, but
And probably look into whether that's
So
going to
we-
affect that space for the sign too, because it looks like it's going to encroach on the space for the sign. If you do that, it's another 8 feet over.
we probably should have a discussion about what kind of direction we want to give to the attorneys here on what we think we want to do. I mean, what is, you know, go ahead. Yeah.
Our purpose is just to make you aware of our proposal with respect to that left-hand turn lane
Yeah.
and the location of the.
Right, but what I would encourage is if there's meetings that take place, if you want to have a voice in them, then we would probably encourage them, you know, the council may encourage them to bring you into those conversations, or say, you know what, it's really not, we're just going to be narrow and look at this piece of it, you know. So I think the council needs to think through that a little bit.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Did John know anything about this?
Good evening and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My name is Stephen Manny. I'm a local property manager for numerous properties in Narragansett and Wakefield. I have a couple of concerns, one from a traffic standpoint. We're talking about the left-hand turn, We just went through a major renovation, the state did, I believe through the American Disability Act, and renovated all of Woodruff Avenue and Route 108 for that purpose of accessing those areas for ADA purposes. I haven't seen anything in any of the proposals that state that there's a way in which a pedestrian can walk onto the property. I don't see, if it's designated as a road, which I don't disagree that it may or may not be, I don't know of roads in the town that are not accessible with a sidewalk. That is my first point. My second point is, any of the residents here that have experienced what's happened with Route 108 and the renovations with the left-hand turns and the new access, properties that I manage are all in that area, as well as 14 Woodruff Avenue is one of our concerns. So I just think we'll have to make sure that we make the rotary at least 4 lanes, because the traffic will back up just as it has all the way to Route 1 to the highway from the renovations of 108. So the traffic volume, A, and then B, we're talking about major chains of supermarkets and contentions. I have a hard time believing the 50 employees, and I just know what it's like to get in and out of, in and out of Belmont during any time that's a busy time, a weekend, summer. And I just think it would be hazardous and to the contrary of what the state has just spent millions of dollars in doing to improve the roadways. The major concern is, I realize that Mr. Kenyon stated that they will accommodate all of the tenants that pre-exist on that side road. Have you tried to vacuum a car and back out while someone's trying to walk down the road with a tractor trailer coming in with a delivery? I experience it every day on the corner of Charles and Cherry. It's not been fun, and hopefully the renovations will happen as Carty Corporation did them prior to the summer, and they won't happen in the very middle of the summer in the high season. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Kurt Kalber. I'm an attorney. I represent Churchill and Banks Companies, a commercial real estate developer. My client is very interested in purchasing lot 329. My firm had written to the council by letter dated November 18th. I don't know if the council
We received it, yes.
So I'm just here tonight to again convey my client's interest in purchasing the property. The objection or issue we have with this easement is that the easement is on the property that my client would like to purchase, and if the easement is granted, they would no longer be interested in the property. My client's willing to pay market value for the property, and they want to develop the property, which would be a significant economic benefit and income to the local taxpayers. And I just request an avenue or some lines of communication to discuss the potential purchase.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Happy New Year. Donald Goodrich, 17 South Pier Road. I had the privilege to be the chairman of the planning board in 1987, and to put that comprehensive plan. And it's nice to see, even almost 30 years later, that you think ahead, all right? Like most things in this town, it takes time. But that's okay. And having lived in South Pier Road for a lot of years, and Travel Point Judith Road, everyone's well aware of the danger. I don't even travel it. I go through the back way, and because I know I can do that. But to the public, this was really, really important. And I really urge you to think of public safety, because that's the only issue here. Thank you.
Thank you. When he,
Question is, what is he going to say?
My main concerns, again, are safety. And I'm looking at this, and this might be cost prohibitive, but there would be an opportunity to do a jug handle like they have on South Tower Hill Road, coming north. See, there are no businesses on the right-hand side. And making people do a jug handle to make any type of a left-hand turn going to the other side. So, you see what I mean?
No.
Now, I don't know if it's cost prohibitive to do that, but it would take a lot of traffic away, eliminate a lot of left-hand turns. Just a suggestion.
right, at this point, we've heard, we've got kind of, I think the problem that we're having right now is that it really needs more vetting with the town staff, and I don't know if the right vehicle for that might be direction from the council on what we've heard tonight. My concern with doing that is then it comes back and then there's nuances, little details that people still don't like. So we've been work session to death, and I hate to suggest another one, but because we've heard, you know, from Dunkin' Donuts and we heard Wynn's jug handle idea, we may want not just John and Mark getting together, but if we're going to really go forward with this, is it something that looks like that, where we have a work session to go through the whole thing? It's an important project for the town, and it's not, there's a lot of complexity to it right now. I know, John, you'd love it if we just approved it tonight, with the language that's been drafted that we haven't even edited as a town yet. You can see that's a difficult position for us to be in. So that's my thoughts on it, but I don't know what everyone else is thinking.
So what I was thinking, I mean, I don't know about a workshop, but I would be in favor of approving it with, after the two attorneys got together and had some conditional approvals, like what we said, maintenance on the road, money for the easement, some safety measures. If we listed out, Mark, the things that we thought were important that you could meet, and then come back with a conditional approval based on vetting that stuff out. I mean, if we have a workshop, I think it's going to be probably.
Yeah, we got enough workshops.
I agree with Sue. I think that's a great idea. Let's put a list together here.
And have the two attorneys work together, and I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, man, but I think we said a lot around the safety measures, questions around the value of the easement or something around that. The back road seems to be a road that people are worried about the safety, so some kind of measures around that. And I think, Mark, you mentioned as far as that, you know, being a private versus public road, but if you guys could hash that out and you have something that would address compensation, safety, betterment to the town, I think maybe, I don't know, what do you think? If we could look at something, then maybe we could agree to something?
Well, and the other thing is Mr. DeAngelo's concern about that extra lane. I'd like to make sure that that's considered in there, because it jumps out at me too, and I'm glad you brought it up.
My suggestion was
I'd like to move it along.
My suggestion was going to be to have our traffic engineer and their traffic engineer get together and work on a design that works for them.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, because otherwise, I mean, based upon what you're contemplating referring to the staff, I was going to tell you that, number one, we would probably have to have some staff input from a traffic expertise, so somebody to look at what the recommendation is, or if they come up with a unified recommendation, I'm still going to have to rely upon Mike and Jeff to say, yeah, and Dean and Scott, that makes sense, and do we need some outside review to say, is there something different of that than what comes out from the two experts? That's number one. Number two, I've mentioned to Matt before, I think Susan, if you're interested in a compensation issue, I mean, that's not going to be Alan Booth or myself coming up with a number. You need to get probably some appraisal based upon, before and after. What's the impact to the town property based upon the loss of that, use of that, but by giving up the easement, what's the difference in valuation, or other ways of looking at it. And what I suggested to Matt was that we have had the use of a contract appraiser we've used for tax appeals recently, Mr. Randolfo's office. I'm not sure he has any conflicts or not, but we've used him on 3 or 4 different appraisals. I'd probably advise you that if you want us to look at value, I'm going to retain him to take a look at it so I get some sense of valuation. So those are 2 experts that would be beyond, Pam, myself, and Jeff and Mike figuring it out.
I, for one, am not interested in the value right now.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
I think we need to get this thing moving along. Yep. But that's just me. I mean, there's 4 other people here to speak, so I'm not interested.
I agree with you. I think this guy, he's going to spend $400,000 maintaining this road.
Yeah. Dot the i's, cross the t's. Let's get moving.
He's going to do the right thing. I don't think he's making.
He's going to pay taxes on it.
You're
right?
giving up a property interest.
Well, yeah, but it's 14,000 square feet, but he's improving that area. He's going to improve access to those other businesses, and he's going to improve the road. I mean, I don't think we should, this guy's doing a lot. I think he's doing a lot for us. I don't think we should be looking for,
number one thing I heard,
property that's just sitting there.
the number one thing I heard was safety, 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 and I think that if we kind of stay focused on that, because I know that's a busy area. I'm a little concerned about the back road or the front road, but I think if we focus on safety, I'd like to get some compensation, but that's on my list. That's not as important as the safety for the people that live in the town and that are going to use those roads. So I definitely think if we can wrap our head around some safety and some maintenance and some additional agreement, that I think we could probably move forward. I mean, I'm generally in favor of it, but I do think that we need to work out the maintenance plan, the private versus the public. So I would like to see the attorneys get together, come up with a viable option for the council to approve or at least look at again.
I agree, Sue. I think it's going to cost them a few more bucks to put that extra lane in to access Dunkin' Donuts, and if they're willing to pay for that,
Right.
you know, that's going to,
Yeah.
there's always going to be something else. They're going
John.
to pay for something down the road here.
To put the way that sign's supposed to be going, to put a lane there so they can take that right turn, I guess that's what these folks wanted. You're gonna have to get the state involved. That's gonna be a long process, correct?
The DOT, Mr. Clinton just informed me, they will do their own analysis, traffic analysis. So
Right.
we could come up with something and they could change it, but
Because, I mean, there's certain parameters. I don't know if the frontage on that road that where we have now is gonna accommodate that kind of, what's your input on that one? Because that's gonna muck things up, I think, for you
I
guys.
just don't want to rush it, though. That's right, that's right, that's right.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry.
What I was saying was, no, I'll tell you what I said. I said we went in circles a meeting ago about getting heat and AC at Kinney Bungalow, which is a $22,000, and we've held that up for months. This is a major project for the town. This should not be rushed.
Yeah,
So
I just don't want to rush
that was what
it.
I whispered to Susan, so everyone at home can
Yeah,
hear.
we
That's my
generally-
frustration right now, sitting up here. So I just want to get that out there, that there's big projects. We're going to prioritize what's in front of us. There is an easement and property interest in play. We have a duty. If it was our own property, we would ask probably for compensation for that easement. We are the representatives of the town. It's town property. So that, I think, and I think I don't know if it's a work session, I don't know if it's the direction, but whatever comes back to us, I don't feel the rush. I apologize to you guys that we should have directed the town staff earlier on this in our planning board. We kicked it to planning, but we really should have given them much more direction as to say, talk about the easement, but just because we didn't do that doesn't mean we just snap our fingers and do it
Yeah,
now.
I don't want to
So-
rush it. We don't want to, I know you guys might all be in a rush, but we want to do what's right for the town, and we want to make sure we address all the issues on the property.
we have no problem taking some time, working it out, making the council comfortable. Again, I think Mark's gonna need some direction regarding the reimbursement issue. I think that is the only one that's really up in the air.
I think you got to get the appraisal number, and then you guys are going to have to negotiate and bring a number to us, and you're going to have a number that you're comfortable with, just like any negotiation. He's going to have, and we can give him that, but we're not going to be able to give him direction until we hear what the appraised amount is, if he's going to use that in Dalfa or whatever. That's one piece of the puzzle. We also have final language of the easement, long-term maintenance of the road. There's a lot here. There's the safety issues,
Well, can we vote on the
I,
compensation now? Because I don't think they need to give us any compensation. I'd vote on that now and clear that issue right off the table.
I don't have a
If
problem with
everybody's
that.
on board.
I'm not yet. I tend to agree with Matt here. There's just a lot of things floating around that I'm not comfortable with. Like I said, I'm in favor of the project, but it's on our agenda as old business. Well, to me, it's brand new business. You might have dealt with it with the last council, but you got 3 new council members here, and I think I boned up on it as much as I possibly could. I think that engineering report, is that from Jim Lawless? That engineering for Dunkin' Donuts?
It was Crossman Engineering.
Okay, because I saw one kicking around from Jim Lawless that,
That was the original plot plan, went back in
1987, Jim Lawless did the.
okay, I have that one. I was looking at that all weekend. Oh,
That's old business.
that's old stuff.
That's
but
old business.
There's some legal issues here we have to, I'd like to have something in writing from our town attorney. There's some planning things here, some questions. I think I'd like to have our professional planner, offer some opinion as well. And there's some engineering issues that with curb cuts and traffic flow through the back, I'd also like opinions too. I don't like to hold you guys up for 2 weeks more than anybody else, but 2 weeks is 2 weeks. I mean, I don't see,
They're gonna stick around.
just to go ahead out on a limb and say, okay, we'll give you approval conditional upon what? I heard like 26 different things here, and I don't know what they are, so.
I don't have a problem working with Mark and the staff and coming up with some more complete language. This is Antonio Malo. He's the current owner of the property, I think. He has something to say.
Hi, how are you?
Seeing I'm the owner of the property, I want to put my 2 cents into it, yeah? I've owned the property since early, late 70s, okay? I've been working at it, okay? I've been, right now, paying close to $20,000 in taxes in the building. You guys are asking for compensation. I think the guy's nuts to want to pay for the road. You guys should be paying for the road.
That's right.
All these guys around there pay taxes. That old unit there, the car wash, the laundromat, the restaurant, they all pay taxes. You guys should be taking care of us.
Right.
Us, we're paying the taxes.
That's right.
And you come up and say, you want compensation? What are you guys out of your mind?
Good for you.
You know,
Good
I
for
work
you.
my tail off.
Well, yeah.
Every day I go up and down that road. Newport Bank, Casarasi went out of business, okay? He wouldn't help me work on the road there. I paid for it. Newport Bank, they did it right. You see the cuts, so you're asking for cuts. They did it right. They got the cuts, that continues on that road. What else you guys want? This guy's crazy for wanting to pay for it. I think I told him he shouldn't be paying for this. You guys should be paying for the town. Everybody says, "Whoa, the taxpayers." I'm a taxpayer.
That's right.
That's it for me.
That's right.
Bonus.
Karen.
My concern is if they put another supermarket in over there, which is right across from Stop and Shop, and with all the traffic complications and all that business, that's going to, I think, lessen the possibility that they put a supermarket down in the Pier Village, which I think we're sorely in need of as far as having a market to go to get staples and other things. They put it up there on that already very complicated, busy road. I think it really lessens the chances of any market going in down to Pier Village. So I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, but I think in the whole gestalt should be looked at rather than just the problems right over there on Point Judith Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to get Gil Payne to lower his rent over there.
All right, so we've gone over, wait, so do we want to give direction or do we want to go with a work session? What's the general feel from the council on this?
Are those the two options?
I'd like to get the compensation out of the way tonight and just, I mean, is there support for that? Just to vote on the compensation? This way here, we can avoid getting an appraiser, we can avoid going through
There's a lot of money
motions.
there.
This gentleman's correct. He's been paying property taxes over there. This is economic development 101. We got a guy coming in, he wants to improve a road, put a business in, and hire 40 people. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna throw up a roadblock on this? We should be thanking this guy.
It's going to take some time to get through it. I'm sure Mark
Well,
McSally, I'm
Right.
sure Mark McSally is going to work with them to get all of the details done. And that takes a little tiny, that takes a little tiny bit of time.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that part. I really don't think that we should be spending the money to look for compensation for that. I think taxes are going to be paid for it. And I think they should just take the time, do it right, look at safety, as Sue said. The only issue that's going to slow it down a lot, I think, is going to be Mark's having to go out and get all this, get these appraisals. Yeah, the word was right there. You saw it, right?
I don't think we need it.
So
I don't think we need
I
an
don't think so
appraisal.
either.
I don't think we need an appraisal. I think we can vote on that right now.
I would like to vote on that
Do we
now
want
also. I make a motion
Do
to
we
vote on
want
that.
compensation for this easement?
I make a
Yes or no?
motion to vote on it.
Let's
Up and
not
down.
call for a vote on that. Let's figure out how we can first get this thing solved. And Mark, do you think that you could work with John and come up with a viable plan so the council can see the agreement? I mean, is that?
Mark, I guess I'm asking Mark and Pam, where do you
Yeah.
fall on the concept of, do you want a list, a directives, or do you want us to all hash this out in a work session format?
Well, I think where we sit right now, I mean, you guys are the policymakers, you can decide how you want to proceed. If you want to direct the staff to come up with appropriate language on the easement that protects the town's interest and ensures all the maintenance obligations that we talked about earlier, we can do that. If you want the staff to also look at the potential alternate configurations, is there an additional turning lane or not? We can do that. We might need some outside resources to assist in reviewing on the engineering aspect of it, but we can do that. If you want the staff to make sure that construction is consistent with town guidelines and requirements, Jeff's department's more than capable of handling that. Those things we can do. Those all could take anywhere from, a week to a month, depending upon what we're doing with outside resources. If you decide you want to at least explore the compensation issue, I need direction. Am I getting an appraiser or not getting an appraiser? That's the concern that we can't answer till you guys weigh in and say, explore it or not explore it. And that would be one that could add some time to it. I don't disagree with that. Appraisers are busy, especially nowadays, and that may add a little bit of time, but I'm not making that decision. You guys got to direct us which way to go. So Matt, the answer is, if you decide the compensation appraisal issue and direct us to come up with the language and the easement and the plan that we think is appropriate for vetting, we can do that and come back to you for review and approval or modification.
I make a motion that we do not have an appraisal.
Second.
All right, discussion on that.
I'm on board with that thinking.
Like I said, when you beginning of the thing, it's just, I'm not interested in bumping anybody for buying the easement. They'd be paying taxes, even more tax. But the problem is, I agree with the owner who spoke just previously, is that there are other business owners here too. We have an obligation to make sure that those business owners are protected in and out of access to that private road in the back there. That's one of my things right now. But I'm not particularly interested in pursuing the compensation angle.
I think you should look at the whole plan holistically and not be cherry picking. I think it's very wrong-headed of the three of you to take one item and treat it that way, and especially where we're trying to get some money for the town in some of these areas. So you can do it, but I think it's, you're cherry picking pieces of the plan. It's a whole plan where we're going to give direction. This is what we're going. Look at the appraisal. Look at all this. This is what we need you to do. I think to cherry pick that one item is not the right approach.
You can call it cherry pick if you want to, but please don't be calling it wrong-headed the rest of the council.
I said wrong-headed. I think it's wrong-headed.
So
I'm sorry.
You might disagree.
I think it's wrong-headed. That's my word that came to my brain.
I think it's a shakedown. This guy's trying to do the right thing, and we're going to shake him down for more money?
So
That's my
I just, to Matt's point, I like the whole plan. I'd rather have the attorneys get together, go through all the things we heard tonight, and all of them, the safety, the back road, the Point Judith Road. So, I mean, can value be included in that discussion or that investigation? Sure. So I would like the council to approve to direct the solicitor and Mr. Kenyon to come up with a list, and working with the town staff. Now, when we come back with that, if you guys want to knock off the value of the compensation, then knock it off then. But let's give them a direction to investigate, come up with the list, and we don't have to all agree to the list.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
So let's do that, and that might hold us up a little, but it will take us to another place.
I'll second that.
Okay, so my motion is to direct.
Well, we've got Ray's motion still on. So do you want to withdraw
Okay.
the motion, or do you want to vote on it? Your compensation motion.
I take a little offense to the cherry picking, because there are details, and this will be a major part that will slow it down a lot. I agree with the fact that these people have been paying, and they're going to pay taxes on this. And I believe that that's going to slow it down the most. And I'm not saying hurry, I'm saying do it right. I think other factors are going to come into play here, and it's going to cost them a few more bucks because they're going to need another lane there to access the Dunkin' Donuts for Mr. DeAngelis. I don't see that as cherry picking. I see that as a point of order that I brought up, and I want it voted on.
Okay.
And that's the way I feel.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
No. Motion approved, 3-2. All right, and so now do we motion to continue this item with direction for the town, direction for the solicitor and town staff?
I will second Sue's motion.
Okay, so let me repeat the motion. I'm going to ask that the solicitor John Kenyon, and other staff, employees, manager, all be involved, and come back with comprehensive list, answering all the questions that we brought up tonight on the safety, on, we can't say the compensation because that's off the list, the back road, maintenance, long-term maintenance, and,
Mr. D'Angelo's was...
yep, and the Point Judith Road with the 3 lanes.
I like
All
this.
of that on the list, it will come back and we can look at that as a council.
Yeah, I'd second that. That's great, Sue.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. All right, new business. A motion to direct the town manager to work with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation to investigate opportunities for salt shed partnership at Westmoreland Street and other town land.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
So I put this on the agenda because I actually cannot believe that people haven't been outraged at the monstrosity at the Rotary. And in meeting with DOT, they were very collaborative and showing their interest in working with the... All right, we're going to try to continue the meeting. All right.
You want to take a 5-minute break?
Just let it
Okay,
you want a break?
they want to take a break, and then we'll talk about this motion. All right, that makes sense.
All right.
Take 5. Smoke them if you got them.
Thank you. All right, thank you. We're going to come back to the meeting. We were in the process of item number 17, which was a motion to direct the town manager to work with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation to invest opportunities for salt shed partnership at Westmoreland Street and other town land. Susan had made the motion, and I believe Ray had seconded. So Susan had begun.
I just needed a few minutes just to speak on this. So right before the last election, I was absolutely outraged at the monstrosity that was coming up in the town of Narragansett at the Rotary. We spent an enormous amount of time talking about Adopt a Spot and the flag program, and then all of a sudden comes this huge salt shed. And I actually put it on the agenda, and there wasn't a lot of conversation around it, but I was just so frustrated. I reached out to DOT, the state level, and spoke to Mike Lewis and Phil Kidd, and they were nice enough to come down and have a conversation with us. And were wonderful when they came to the town hall and talked about how they would like to work with the town. They understand that we're a tourist community, that maybe there was something we can do about it, short-term, long-term, and that they showed a real collaborative effort to figure out a solution. And it wouldn't be solved tomorrow, like the manager said, but it was certainly they were interested in this community as a tourist spot, and they wanted to sort of see what we could do. Short term was the planting and maybe painting and not illuminating. And then the long term was to see if there was an opportunity to switch out and maybe move it somewhere else. And so when we met with them, one of the things we talked about is Westmoreland, because that's where Narragansett keeps their salt. And irony is that we're not even really using the state salt shed for our own town purposes. It's really used for the state, which is a sad story in itself. But long story short, they are willing to work with us because I think in hindsight they see the frustration through the town and what's happened, and even though it's not illuminated, it's still a monstrosity, and I don't understand how it really, if I had known about it, I would have been at state properties on the day they were talking about it and would have stamped my feet and screamed to make it not happen. But we are where we are, and it's not a blame game, but they want to really work with us. I'm not saying Westmoreland to the council is the spot, because I don't want to bog down that neighborhood with a shed that looks like that. But if there are opportunities in the town, in another community, where we could swap out the land, I'm extremely interested in looking at those long-term options. And so I'm asking the council to, to support this motion, just to direct the manager to work with DOT, to work with the locals, because I really feel like I want to be involved in this, and I feel like I am the long-term council person here, and I really didn't know much about the project, and that's a whole nother story, but I feel disappointed, and I feel like I've disappointed the community. So I feel really passionate about it. So for that, I would like to have this motion passed so that Pam can talk to the state who wants to help us try to make this better.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, it's a great motion in terms of there's a lot of frustration with the salt shed. I want to caution everybody, not raise expectations. It would be a long-term plan. Pam would start to, have these discussions, and it's a big project if we were to do something like this, but it's at least letting people know that we're not letting it off, the agenda, but this will be more of a long-term solution. Short-term is going to be looking at landscaping and plantings and things like that. But at least we want to give Pam that direction, or at least I would like to give Pam that direction to at least talk to DOT on that.
I agree.
I'm on board. It's a little like closing the barn door after the cows all left the barn there, but, yeah, I'm on board.
Susan, was there any more information about the environmental impact of having all that salt there? Because I guess there was a history of some interchange between the town previously, many years ago, and how that could impact the groundwater or anything else.
So when Mr. Hendricken was the president of the council, he was concerned about that, as well as Grady Miller, about that salt being out in the open air, so they were looking to protect it so it wouldn't get into the runoff water and everything. So they wanted it covered. Unfortunately, we didn't have much to say about the design of how they were going to cover it, but the environmental concern, they were certainly motivated by the right thing. They didn't want the salt out in the open air, which I get, and we wanted to protect that, but I'm not quite sure we needed a size of a salt shed that large in that area.
And I'm also very frustrated by the lack of, I hate to say it, but where is our state representative and where is our state senator? And I'm very frustrated because I'm in that district with Mr. G, which is a spaghetti box. He represents 4 towns. And I think the state representative, why aren't we getting somehow compensated for National Grid and Deepwater coming, even though it's on state land, it's still coming through the town. There's going to be noise, there's possibly going to be oil pollution and all that. How come we're not getting some compensation from the state for having this project go through our town and then having the salt? I think there ought to be a lot more pressure put on the state and the local representatives to have them, and maybe the attorney, try and work something out. I mean, it's too little too late maybe, but on the other hand, it's going to impact the people in the town. Thank you.
Yeah, so, Mark, I don't know about that, because that's the second piece of that bad deal that I'm not happy about, is the Deepwater, that piece. So is that done?
I'm not sure what options exist, to be quite honest with you. It's a state project. We could think about it, but I'm not sure that many.
The sad part is we made our opinion clear on this issue, and then they went and picked purposely state property within our town.
Right, so it's,
that
I'm not
still
sure there's a-
begs maybe one more go at that apple, but we're going to have to look at our options on it, Karen. We've done, we've done everything we can on that.
It's just amazing.
Well, maybe we've done everything as far as in the local town, but how about trying to get some reimbursement and some funding from the state for this? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Mark can check that out for us.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, that ship sailed.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to adopt an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 62 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Solid Waste.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. This is a second reading of this ordinance, so unless there's some error in the second reading.
I think that there was something in my packet, I can't find it right now, but it had to do with a Newport ordinance that was put in place, and I was wondering if that, maybe Jeff would know, if that Newport ordinance could fit into our ordinance. It was nice of whoever found that ordinance. Who did find that anyway? Is that you, Jeff?
I'm completely at a loss then. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I think this is the recycling ordinance.
Right, yeah, it was Newport's recycling ordinance. I thought that was pretty impressive. And it was interesting because, Jeff, we talked about the fact that when there are big events in Narragansett, are there recycling procedures?
Our ordinance already requires that.
Pardon me?
Our ordinance already requires recycling for special community events.
Oh, okay, so that Newport's ordinance is within this? Someplace that I haven't
don't know.
read it?
I've never seen Newport's
Okay,
ordinance.
I'll tell you what, I'm all set then.
I'll be glad to look at it.
Yeah,
but
just
I'm
take a
not
look at
prepared
what
to
you
answer it
gave.
tonight.
But I thought that was pretty nice.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion
Nay.
approved. Oh, sorry. Motion approved 4-1. Item 19, a motion to approve and authorize the Narragansett Parks and Recreation Department to partner with local nonprofit organizations to organize, develop, and coordinate Gansett Days, a celebration of Narragansett on September 18th, 19th, and 20th, 2015, subject to approval of state and local regulations.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Steve, do you have anything you want to kind of talk about on this? Go ahead, yeah.
It was like a dance, Steve.
Well, good evening. I just wanted to, we're kind of excited about this. This is a new initiative. It's for September 18th and 19th and 20th. It's a three-day event, and right now we are partnering with the Narragansett Land Conservancy Trust, Narragansett Harbor Commission, Galilee Advisory Committee, South County Museum, Narrow River Kayaks, Friends of Canachet Farm, the Towers, Narragansett Historical Society, DEM, URI, Narrow River Preservation Association, Rhode Island Rivers Council, Narragansett Surf Rescue, Narragansett Wastewater Division, Narragansett Planning Department, and others in showcasing historical, cultural, and natural beauty of Narragansett. It's the intent of this three-day family, low-cost, free, and event to provide folks in our community the opportunity to explore and celebrate the town they live in. So we're excited about this. We're planning this. There's many activities throughout town. Right now, we're considering a movie at the gazebo. We're going to we hope to put a large tent up near the gazebo at Gazebo Park for the three-day weekend. That's where we're going to host the event where these nonprofits and others, we're going to open it up to the entire community. We're looking for others to contact us. We're in the initial planning stages. We're going to have an open house at Kinney Bungalow, Sunset Farm, History of the Towers, Sandcastle Building at the beach, volleyball demonstration. South County Museum is also participating, Galilee walking tours, wastewater plant tours, boat tours, bird watching, clamming for kids, oyster farm demonstration, touch tanks, and a lot of things throughout town. So we're really excited about this. So, as we continue the planning, we're going to continue to update folks and update the council. So we're looking for your support and approval.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Richard?
Steve.
Ray, did you want to talk?
No, I did.
I thought I heard.
I didn't hear Richard's name on there because he's one of the. There you go.
Now, I've done a lot of these events, and I think we have to broaden it. Now, I have a theme for this event. That there still isn't a theme that I want to see. Narragansett is much more than its magnificent and historic town beach. Discover all of Narragansett for the first time. And I think this kind of a theme takes us from just a three-day event, as I told Steve a couple of hours ago. It allows us then to frame each event, capture what went on in that event, so that later on for those successful events at the Chamber of Commerce, at Parks and Rec, at the Town Hall, a person coming in and say, what can I do? Yes, here are 10 different things that were very successful. So this shouldn't be a one-time thing, and it should be a goal. And I'd like to read you something from 1964, if I have my reading glasses on. And it comes from the person who was then graduate dean at the University of Rhode Island, and he also was an urban planner, and quite a bright guy. Just the first opening sentence. Less nostalgia over the past and more enthusiasm for what Narragansett might become in the future were cited Monday night as guidelines for successful planning in Narragansett by Peter Nash. At the risk of being redundant, I'd like to follow up on that theme of where we've gone wrong. One of the many decision models to use in attempting to make changes is the historical model. There's also the accounting model. You've heard that already. Our recently proposed special event weekend is one more attempt to broaden the public's interest in Narragansett. And after much study of history of Narragansett, which is sort of interesting, I would like to offer that Narragansett has been lost since the Great Fire of 1900. This destroyed the basic structure of the soul of Narragansett, the casino, the Rockingham Hotel, and many businesses. The pier had reached its zenith in September of 1900. It had many large hotels, the Narragansett Pier, railroad, the steamship landing. It had the electric railroad coming in from Providence and East Greenwich. There were no other developed beaches in Narragansett. No wonder Narragansett residents always view a revived pier as the only solution to our long-term doldrums. A study of 1900 through 2014, which I've been doing, witnesses many revival plans, all centered on the pier. Let me tell you what is here now that wasn't in 1900. Galilee wasn't here. Jerusalem wasn't here. South County Museum wasn't here. Oceanography, which to me is the big one, wasn't here. Beaches like Scarborough, Sand Hill Cove, Salty Bryan, Bonnet Shores, Galilee Beach Club, and so on. Canachet Farm Trails. Many mansions on Ocean Road and Boston Neck Road. Whale Rock Walk, Black Point Park, the Village Green, shopping and eating, businesses in the redeveloped offshoot of Beach Street. As long as we focus on the impossible goal of bringing back September of 1900, we will be forever lost. One of the plans in 1888 was to split off Narragansett Pier itself from South Kingston with nothing else. That was not successful. The reason was, by the way, Old Orchard Beach broke away from Saco, Maine, and became quite successful. The special event weekend should inform us and others that our sole focus on the pier is over. In Arabic, you would say alas. In French, fini. We want to change our focus to what and where we are in 2015, and a plan to refocus completely by 2020, which is a good idea because then your vision is better. Narragansett is much more than the town beach. And, okay.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Rich.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 20, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the purchase and installation of an enhanced cell block monitoring system for TSG Solutions Incorporated and Galaxy Integrated Technologies in the sum of $27,380.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 21, a motion to approve the purchase of a large-capacity trailer-mounted wastewater pump and accessories from Thompson Pump and Manufacturing Company Incorporated in the amount of $69,623 using GSA pricing.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions on that one.
All right, Jeff, do you want to give us a synopsis, and then Patrick will have some questions?
Michael was gonna be the killjoy.
I'm not sure what I can add to what's written in
Right.
in the packet if you've got specific questions.
Yeah, how often do you rent one? Do you ever get put in a position where you have to rent a pump, an 8-inch pump?
It has happened when we rented one for several months when we did the Sprague Bridge renovations last year.
Right, right. So over the last 20 years, how many times have you rented an 8-inch pump?
We rented an 8-inch pump once for the Sprague Bridge project.
In 20 years?
Yes.
Okay. The two 6-inch pumps that we have now, are they in pretty fair condition, good
Yes, they
condition? Now, they've been handling the load right now?
No, they will not handle Sprague Bridge or Weeda Street, our two
Right,
biggest pump stations.
Now, Sprague Bridge, didn't we just upgrade that facility? That we just paid like $900,000 for that
We
pump
put all
station?
new pumps and motors in it, yes, we did.
Right, so we should be good to go over there, one would, right?
We have a 30-year-old generator in there, Patrick, and if power fails and the generator doesn't
There's a-
start, then I've got a problem.
You mean we dumped $900,000, we didn't get a new generator out of it? It was just the pumps?
It was all pumps, motors, and electronics, yes. If we added a generator to the price, it would have been another $200,000 on top of it. It's an expensive industry that we're in, especially for that size. I mean, you're talking about 800 amp services there. These aren't
Right,
household-sized
right,
products.
right. I understand.
But the Scarborough treatment plant, the Weeda Street pump station, and the Sprague Bridge pump station cannot function with a 6-inch pump
Right.
as their backup, for example. We need the 8-inch capacity. When you go from a 6-inch to an 8-inch, you're talking about going from 1,000 gallons a minute pumping capacity to 3,000 gallons a minute pumping capacity. It's only 2 inches when you're measuring the diameter of
Right.
it, but
It makes a big
it triples the capacity of it.
Just to the side, Jeff, I'm just curious, this Thompson pump, that's just made right here in West Greenwich, right?
Yeah,
Are they like a world-renowned pump manufacturer and distribution?
they're one of the best.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 22, a motion to award the bid for GS General Electrical Services to the lowest responsive bidder, E.W. Audet and Sons Incorporated, at their quoted bid prices for a one-year period.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Just a quick question, if I may. Any reason to why that Elko didn't fill in that one blank on this bid sheet? I mean, they were, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to study this.
Yeah, I saw that.
They had a great,
Yeah, they're 37% lower.
They had a
And
great-
then they blew it, but then
that's why they
their
bailed.
parts were 200% higher.
That's why they bailed.
Yeah.
so they, by
No,
our,
it is what it is.
all right, I won't drag it on. It's just,
No response.
it's just a real shame.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 23, a motion to appoint Stephen L. Daño Jr. as tree warden for the town of Narragansett pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 2-14-2.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
How did that get paid for?
Pam, yeah, just for the public, describe that he's kind of his role, and then if there's compensation.
We're required to have somebody certified. Mr. Dano works directly under Mr. DeChico. He's the acting superintendent of DPW, and he has served in this capacity since, as long as Mike has served as acting director. He's done a great job. He's certified. It is not paid. It is not a paid position. It's just added on to his regular duties.
Thanks. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 24, a motion to reappoint 2 individuals to the Economic Development Committee to a 3-year term which will expire on December 1st, 2017.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Can I just, for the 2 reappointments, I mean, I'd like to put them up for reappointment, but I just want to thank Harry Schofield, because he's since resigned from EDC, and he was a valued member, and so he will be missed. So I want to say thank you to him.
Also, we want to mention Peg Fredette also
Peg,
resigned.
that's right,
for
and
her
Peg as well. Thank you
contribution.
for her contribution. She was wonderful, and they both have moved on. So there are 2 open spots after those reappointments tonight.
And you moved for the 2 names?
Yeah, so I would move for the Chris Lacanoli to be reappointed and
Stephen Glazer.
Steve Glazer.
And you seconded. And as Susan mentioned, there's still 2 vacancies on the EDC. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 25, a motion to schedule a work session with NIHART.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Do we have a date?
Discussion. So Pam, this is NIHART's, the actuarials.
They're our actuarial firm, and the council asked me and the finance director, Laura Kenyon, some time ago to set up a appointment. They will be in town, seeing their other clients in this area also on January 13th, and I believe that we've already reviewed it, and that was a date where we can all meet. So hopefully you will approve January 13th, Tuesday, January 13th at 6:30. Our actuaries will be here. And Laura is, you will have the actuarial report. If you didn't get it this afternoon, you'll get it tomorrow. She's sending it out, okay?
Great. So just on scheduling, Stan? Really?
It's
Come on.
just scheduled.
You don't like January 13th?
I don't want to schedule NIHART unless is he the only one that does this? Wait, is there a second or third person? Is there a?
Was chosen years ago.
It's a no-bid thing? We just hire somebody who don't bid on it? Yeah, he's the best bid on it, he was?
Long time ago, yes.
Thank you, Stan. That's okay. It's all good. Motion to approve January 13th at 6:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to schedule a work session with EDC to review the Homestead Act.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
So I put this on because the EDC would like to meet with the council to talk about their recommendation for the Homestead Act. I'm not sure if I endorse it or not, but I'm interested to hear the proposal on the act and what the council would think about it. So since I serve on the EDC, I thought it would be important to at least have them come before the council.
So do you think that it would be good to get a couple more members on that committee first? Or do you think it's appropriate to schedule it for the 2nd? Maybe give them a few more weeks?
They had,
Just asking.
they had
That's-
asked for February 17th, and, you know, to the point about the members, it's been a committee that has had members come and go, and so I don't know if that dynamic is going to change. So the particular group that's there, I think, worked on the proposal, so I'd be interested to hear what they have to say about it.
So Ann had brought to my attention work sessions were supposed to schedule under the charter on the 2nd and 4th Monday. She had found that out, which I wasn't aware of. It's something that's just a glitch that's not been, we've just gone before the regular meetings.
So that's fine.
So to be in keeping,
But that is the day of our council meeting
the 17th.
because of presidents?
That is not the day, right? The 17th is the day?
Yes, it is,
Oh,
so it could be before the council meeting. So is that a problem if we did it that way? No. Okay. Yeah, then that would be fine if everybody, I mean, you would just be
The 17th,
observers and listening,
Instead of the 2nd, is that what you're saying?
because the council meeting's on the 17th, so she's saying before the meeting, before a regular meeting, right? That we would have a workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that works out well, so you'd be here for 2 meetings
Yeah, no
on
problem.
that date.
Sounds good to
That's
me.
just like the way I like to do business.
Stan.
I take issue with you scheduling a meeting on this issue. Homestead Act is unequal taxation. In America, everybody is equal. Here we have a discriminatory issue, unequal taxation. We are taxed based on evaluation, property evaluation. not who you are, not anything else. Property valuation. Homestead Act seems to want to break that up into some people getting a break. If some people get a break, the other people pay for it. No, and this was already vetted out a couple of years ago and turned down. I demand that we do not rehash this again. It's unequal taxation. It's so wrong, based on property evaluation only. Nobody gets a break. Everybody pays their fair share, and they don't pay extra because somebody else gets a break. So I do not want to see this move forward.
I guess
Stop.
Thank you,
I
Stan.
guess we'll see you at the meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the 17th.
And what time are we doing that?
6:30?
6 or
Is an hour
6:30?
enough time? Yeah, I think an hour is enough time before. I mean, we're just going to listen to it. Stanley, we're going to
6:30
hear what they
PM.
have to say
Yeah, don't
about it.
go
We're
gas
not
it.
endorsing anything at this point, other than a conversation with a board.
February 17th, 6:30 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. And 27, a motion to schedule a workshop with the library board to receive an update on their progress on the Narragansett Public Library.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
So I put this on the agenda.
Dan, you're killing me. What's going
Wait,
on?
let me just say.
Susan,
Um,
you
let me-
put this on?
Yes, I
Okay.
put it on
Sorry,
because,
Stan.
as you know, the library has tried to speak with the council over a number of years and came late to the bond, and they have a desire to do something different with the library. It's a well-used building in the community. Again, heard that there might be a nice plan that they have. Happy to hear what their direction is. The library board would like to meet with us. Again, opportunities there to hear what they have in their plan. So I support this, and I hope the council will.
I think we're still in critical status financially, critical status. And for us to even think or even give them false expectations that we can afford to take on another project at this time is wrong. So just let them know, hey, listen, we got to postpone this another year until we get out of critical status. Again, shows fiscal responsibility here. You know, going to go to a meeting and they're going to think that we're going to build a $1 million thing or whatever. I don't know. They shouldn't even be led down that road. No.
Maybe Nyhart will tell us we're way out of critical status.
Maybe Nyhart's got some good news.
Maybe they'll have some free.
Say your prayers, Dan.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Figure out the financials. Finance. We're in trouble on finance.
Also, the library is under the Homestead Act,
I
too.
like the library. Love the library.
Look at his
So let's see what they have to
I
say.
met my wife at the library. The library is a special place. I love it.
See you at the
Can't
workshop.
spend money on it at this time, though,
So
right?
when-
She
when's
doesn't
that
look
work?
too
We need
happy
a
about us,
date,
Dan.
guys, we need a date on this workshop.
How about the second?
Was anything
Want to do the
suggested?
second?
Yeah, is the second fine?
That's a meeting?
That's a meeting. So if we do it before, I like that, Patrick. If you do the workshop before the council meeting, you get 2 meetings in a night. 6:30?
6:30 PM.
6:30.
So that's February 2nd at 6:30, the library
Get it out
workshop.
of the way. Stanley, we hope to see
Can
you
we
there.
just, does that work for the library board? Okay,
That's February 2nd, 6:30 PM.
thanks,
All
Lou.
in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved, 5-0.
You got a busy
have a-
week there in February there. A
We
busy
got-
month for you there, Stanley.
A motion to retire to executive session of the town council at the end of the January 5th, 2015 town council meeting as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 to discuss litigation, GP Retail LLC versus John Majika in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A2, and to discuss performance reviews with Ann M. Irons, Magistrate, John J. DeCubilis, Municipal Court Judge, Probate Court Judge James L. Sheridan, Mark A. McSally, Town Solicitor, Robert Donnelly, Assistant Town Solicitor, as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws and General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A1, and appoint Mark A. McSally, Town Solicitor, as Clerk Pro Tem, and appoint Susan Cicilline Bonanno as Clerk Pro Tem.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Wilkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murray. Me.
Reverend-
Yeah, aye.
Ray Ronaldo, yeah.
Miss Bonanno. Mr. Rinaldi.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you.